I'm going to need one of you to introduce it, because the theme song usually plays over someone talking, so I'm going to need someone to say a thing.
Right. That's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life.
Sorry, listeners. Welcome back to the Funfiltered podcast.
Well, Jordan's had a nervous breakdown, brought on by isolation.
Okay, we're done with that.
That flute raped my ears.
This is rubbish.
What, the flute?
No, I got a piece of paper here.
Right.
That's supposed to tell me... Well, you can read it there.
Preliminary supposition for a good play of the recorder.
Yeah, so it sort of outlines, like, what notes, what holes you have to cover to create certain notes.
Is supposition a musical term?
Probably not. I don't know.
What a bizarre way to phrase that.
Yeah.
Preliminary supposition, what was it?
Preliminary supposition for a good play of the recorder. So from that, I garner, like, this isn't going to teach you how to play it. This is like a cheat sheet, basically. So you sound basically okay.
How long have you had that recorder, George?
But supposition, so it's saying these are some things you should suppose before you play the recorder.
Oh, no, I'm replacement. I thought it meant by supposition.
But that's not what supposition means.
That's what I interpreted
What would replacement mean in that context?
Well, like I said, this isn't going to teach you how to be able to play the recorder. You obviously can't play the recorder.
Right.
Because you don't have a musical bone in your body. That's why you own a recorder.
Oh,
but
right.
this is by supposition, it's like, this is like what you need to do to sound like you can play the recorder.
No, supposition just means I suppose something. It's a supposition.
Right, okay.
How bizarre. Is that trying to be like, get like cookie branding? Where occasionally they'll just like write silly things on Coke cans.
I don't know, the rest of it's pretty dry. It's
pretty dry, is it?
Yeah.
It's not a fun read.
No. So, unless that's the joke, like the title's kind of a bit like, oh, this is a thing, and then the rest of it is very technical, like dry. But I mean, the rest of it's in foreign, so I don't know if that's
it's in foreign.
Part of the joke. I say it because I have no idea what language. There's 2 dots over the O. What language is that?
German?
You do get it in German, yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, actually, yeah. There are some letters in here which are very clearly German.
They have like a little flag by the side, George.
What?
Well, how...
Usually with those things, they have like a little flag by the side or the name of the country.
Do you see a flag,
Well,
Eddie?
then don't buy a recorder from the pound shop.
I didn't. I found it in the house, and I was like, right, that's the intro to the podcast.
Okay. How diverse are umlauts? Because you get them in German.
Yeah.
You get them, I think are they in Swedish as well? Or Norwegian? I'm sure that they're somewhere.
No idea. Absolutely no idea.
Sweden maybe.
You get a B. There's that weird B that Germans have, where it's sort of like, well, it looks like a B, but it's not a B. I think it's like a double S sound.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's purely a German thing. This is irrelevant. Yeah. This is like this is going on way too long. Sam,
you're the one who started by playing the fucking recorder.
Yeah, I thought we'd be done with. Fine, whatever. Sam, Eddie, what have you been up to? Hello, welcome to the podcast. How have you been up to, guys?
Oh, this is a shambles. I love it.
Well, I think by the time this comes out, like a month ago, I appeared on James Humphrey's Pest from the West podcast.
Okay. Rival podcast.
Well, a friend podcast now, right?
Allied podcast.
All podcasts are rival podcasts.
Yeah, I suppose.
We're not going to get very far.
That's the way you look at everything.
No,
everything in the same field as you is a rival.
You have to work with other podcasts to grow. That's how you do it in this industry.
No, they are the enemy, Eddie.
No. Listen,
That's why we've only got 5 listeners, George.
I existed in the Cardiff theatre scene for 2 years. You have to pretend to be friends until you're victorious. Yes, anyway, so I was on that podcast and I was put into a position where I had to weigh myself. So I did weigh myself, and putting a number to the feeling, that inspired me to diet. And so the one I kept hearing about, like I heard it on 3 separate streams on the same day, so I thought it must be like a sign, was the ketogenic diet. And so I thought, right, I'll give that a go. But have you seen the ketogenic diet? It's barbaric.
I haven't even heard of it.
Yeah. Is it the one I'm thinking of where it's like no carbs?
It's absolutely no carbs, like no sugar, no sweetener, nothing like that. No condiments. It's just vegetables and meat. That's basically all it is.
Which is not, that's not a terrible, like...
No, I know that, but you can't even eat cereal. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's just not worth it.
That is tragic.
Yeah, so I looked at it and I just thought, nah, I'm just going to eat less bread.
I'm just going to go back to my Chinese and my pizzas.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm just eating less bread. That's all I'm doing.
Okay, a concession to being fit and healthy.
That's all I've done, basically.
Okay. Yeah, this whole being in lockdown thing, it's not as sort of exciting as I thought it would be.
Did you think it would be exciting?
Well, I don't know. You see like videos of people online who are like, you know, oh, I'm learning a new language, or I've like, you know, not Rubik's Cubes, what they called? Rube Goldberg.
Yeah.
Tons of like Rube Goldberg machines, and like people are being like, you know, oh, now I have all this time, I'm doing this like interesting stuff, and then we're just here like, you know, oh, I'm eating less bread.
But you can't say lockdown is less interesting than I thought it would be because I'm not doing anything interesting. That's no excuse.
Yeah. Okay, you are less interesting than I thought you would be in lockdown. Is that a better way of saying
do something more interesting with your time then.
I can't. I've got things to do, but you guys, what are you doing?
But I'm not bored.
I've been writing all week.
Okay. Anything good?
Well, I'd like to think so. I wrote 40 pages in 2 days.
It's not his to say, is it? It's not his place to say.
I mean,
I'll be the judge of that.
I'll say, yeah, to be fair, Sam, I'm definitely going to send it to you as soon as it's done. So
okay, all right. Well, yeah, I'll review it on the next podcast then.
Yeah. By the time this comes out, I'll have shaved my head, so that'll be fun.
Oh. Why are you doing that, Eddie? Why are you giving in?
Why am I giving in? I'm not giving in. It's called I hate how long my hair is. I'm wearing a hat just walking around the house.
But everyone's doing that, right? Everyone's shaving their heads.
Yeah, because the barbers are closed, and it's a great idea.
Well, if you say so.
So yeah, I'm literally in the process of choosing a shaver, and then as soon as it arrives, I'm going to shave my head.
What's wrong with shaving your head, Jord?
What's wrong with shaving your hair?
Yeah.
Because my hair is all I've got. That's like the one part of me that's like, you know, it's all right.
If you say so.
No, it's not good. But compared to the rest of me, it's like, okay, there's some, that can be somewhat salvaged.
Okay, all right.
I just have this brilliant image of you looking in the mirror every day and go, I've got hair.
I've still got the hair.
It's not over yet.
Yeah. Okay, well, we've all watched Beastie Boys Story.
Yep.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's called Beastie Boys Story.
I kept forgetting the name of it. It's not the best name, is it?
Well, I mean...
Usually they go for like either like a song, like one of the more famous songs that the band has done, although that tends to be biopics. But like Montage of Heck, which is the Nirvana documentary, like where did that come from? That was a Cobain generated.
I think it was either an early mixtape that he made and he called it Montage of Heck, or it was just a phrase that he wrote in his diary. It's definitely one of those two.
Yeah.
That's a good title. Yeah, it's not the best title, but it kind of works for the format of the film. I think.
Which I suppose is sort of the main thing to talk about when you're talking about the Beastie Boys story.
Yeah.
Because in terms of the progression of information that's sort of delivered to you over the course of the documentary, it's very standard band documentary, isn't it? It's sort of, these were our early days, this is when we started to get famous, this is when we hit the lull, this is when we sort of reascended, and
then
where
they
we
just
are now.
Casually don't talk much about the last 3 albums.
But you know, band documentaries or band biopics, they're seldom made, by the band. They're third parties, sometimes in association with a band, sometimes not. Generally speaking, when the band is involved, I tend to get a bit skeptical.
Well, yeah, because this is what's interesting about it. This documentary is a recorded stage show with sort of stock footage and like pictures spliced into it. And the stage show is conducted and presented by the remaining Beastie Boys.
Yeah, it's basically a high quality PowerPoint.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know about you guys, but for me, I was surprised just how much that worked for me.
Yeah, I don't know. It's sort of like as they were, because I'm not too familiar with Beastie Boys. I know the big songs.
Nor am I. That's the opposite of a bias. That's my ignorance is I'm basically coming to this band as a total outsider.
Yeah, but sort of being exposed
Sabotage, but that's it.
But sort of having been exposed to this stuff through the documentary, the format that the documentary took sort of makes sense for them. Yeah. It kind of fits their style, where it felt like it was very like, okay, what do we have at our disposal?
Well, not just that, or the fact they're such a iconoclastic band.
Yeah.
And they always sort of did whatever the hell they wanted to. It would be weird if they weren't telling their own story.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Like if Kurt Cobain was alive, I mean, it's a stupid thing to say that if he was alive, there'd be no montage of heck. But I feel like if he was alive, no documentary like that would have been made about him, because it's Kurt Cobain. He has a very distinctive voice. Now that voice is gone, it's okay to make your own, but you can't really do that when they were around. And so, and also the fact that, the third member of their band passed away a few years ago. And so to get their personal response and take on that was nice.
Yes.
Well, yeah, so it's a PowerPoint and then kind of interrupted by... There's a lot of footage of them just kind of back and forthing, telling the story, kind of tag teaming it.
Yeah.
But then occasionally they'll sort of reenact scenes.
They're almost like miniature, like when you watch like a stand-up gig and the stand-up is they sort of go into a character in order to deliver the material. It's sort of like that, where it's like almost a live action sketch where they'll sort of they'll say like, oh, we were walking down the street, and then they'll like go to the back of the stage and like footage of a street will appear behind them, and they're sort of pretending to walk on the spot.
Yeah.
And like, oh, this is what we were thinking in this moment. There's moments like that where they sort of like, they're not literally just on stage going, this is what happened, this is what happened.
Yeah.
They are sort of making it feel like a show, because it's a live show recorded in front of a live studio audience.
It's a live show they did around the US.
Yeah, yes. Toured as well.
Yeah, toured, yeah. I mean, it's very innovative. Like, Spike Jonze directed it. And
yes.
It's that it reminded me of working in theatre, where it's you have no... It's not the case with them, obviously, but you have no money. What do you do to make something tedious interesting?
Yes.
On a stage? And little things like, just putting stock footage of a street behind them and they're just kind of pretending to walk up it.
Yeah.
That's how you do that, and them doing little impersonations and things like that. And I was worried that them telling their own story, because it is written, I know that's obvious, but if it's written in the sense that it doesn't feel particularly loose and riffed, like it's phrased occasionally as if you're reading an autobiography. And then, of course, we had the years where this happened, but it never felt too artificial. It never felt irreverent, but it felt like just enough. I didn't roll my eyes when that happened. I
think their delivery is really what sells it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say their delivery is completely natural. There are moments where it's sort of like, it's clear. It obviously, because it has accompanying graphics as well, but it's sort of clear like, okay, this was a moment that was rehearsed.
Well, yeah.
But you don't feel it. You don't feel like, it doesn't feel stiff. It kind of feels like they're clearly playing to their strengths, and they have a sense of humor to them anyway. They've always had a sense of humor to them.
Yeah.
So that kind of performance... Actually, it was interesting because the heavy metal guy that they mentioned in the documentary that sort of brought them into Def Jam Records.
Yeah, Rick Rubin.
Yeah. Rick Rubin, who didn't stay with them, right? He was the guy who sort of screwed them over after...
By their own...
By their own, whatever.
Lights.
But when they said that like he was really into like professional wrestling, and then they show like an interview that he conducted where he was like being all like big and boisterous, and it felt very professional wrestling.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
So he kind of brought that sort of that kayfabe element to the Beastie Boys, where they're like posturing and they're like, oh, we're the best, and we're like, if that element does feel very pro wrestling. So they are natural performers.
They are,
and I think that really helps. It's a really good idea that the documentary is basically them on stage, quote unquote, performing.
Yeah, and they haven't performed since the death of Adam, have they?
No, they called it quits.
Yeah, I really respect that, and I respect. Well, I was sort of surprised by the fact. Like I said, I've never seen an interview with the Beastie Boys. I haven't really seen anything about, with them.
Yeah.
So, but when you're seeing footage of them when they were younger and the kind of stuff they were doing, it's surprising to me it was surprising as I was watching it that they're so cogent and down to earth on stage.
Oh yeah.
Like I know like that's a function partially of age, but they're talking about it in quite lucid, almost objective terms occasionally, and they just seem like two regular guys. They're not being mad on stage. You do sort of
forget. I don't know about you guys, but there were a couple of instances where I sort of forgot that the people on stage were the same people in the footage we were seeing.
Yeah, totally. They just looked like guys. You know?
At times, but at times when they were trying to say words that were a bit too young for them to say.
Oh yeah, when they were sort of slipping back into that sort of rap language. It was a bit like, oh okay, all right. You're just an older version of that guy.
It's not even just that. It was me sat there going, this just feels like my dad trying to be cool because I've invited him to a Q&A of something.
Right.
You know, I mean, because you've got the whole thing of, obviously they've got the teleprompter in the background.
Yeah.
Which very clearly, it's just there in case they forget what part they're talking about rather than actually being a teleprompter.
Yeah, they're not reading from the
off.
teleprompter.
Yeah, they're clearly not
like
reading
read
off it at all. The only thing for me, like watching it, I don't know if did either of you watch the bloopers that are at the end post credits?
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's a shame that those were bloopers and not part of the show, because I found those really quite funny, and I was like, if those had just been sort of spliced in as like parts of the show.
Yes, but then I think you run the risk of creating this artificial sense of realism almost.
Yeah, because
you get that a lot now with like reality TV shows like Britain's Got Talent and The X Factor. A couple of years ago, all of a sudden they all started like showing like behind the scenes segments, and they started to feel like keeping in members of the crew. If they were like speaking to people off camera, they kept in that to sort of make it feel more real, you know?
It's the Mrs. Brown's Boys school of presentation, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. If you sort of put too much of that in, then even the bloopers start to feel deliberate, and that can have a bad effect on the audience where they start to invest less in it.
Yes,
yeah.
But I think for me, I think I probably would have enjoyed it more. I really enjoyed it. I found it really interesting.
Yeah.
But I think I would have enjoyed it more if what I was getting to see was the live show that they actually did, and not the edited version of the live show.
Well, we did. It didn't feel... There were like one or two instances where it would cut to another angle and their head was in a slightly different position. But other than that, it holds together very well. It does feel like we're seeing a complete show, you know?
And they did keep in the odd mistake or blooper. I don't know how rehearsed they were, but where they forgot who was reading what off the teleprompter and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I guess had you had too many of those, it would have started to feel a bit... Well, even if not artificial, then unprofessional, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, that would be fine.
I guess.
I think that would also fit the Beastie Boys. But, but it's more that sense of I'm worried that if you put too many bloopers in, then even if the audience aren't conscious of it, then they would go like, oh, okay.
It depends on your level of initiation as well. I mean, like when we've gone to see stand-up comics, things that appear to be mistakes or them fumbling, you can bet money on that being part of the act. And that's because we're into it. I don't know, this might sound snotty, I don't know. I don't know what the average movie or theatre goer, if they would think, oh, these bloopers must be rehearsed. I don't know how...
Right.
You know? I don't know.
I suppose what I think, when I'm talking about like some of the bloopers and stuff, like the bit which is you've got like Ben Stiller and Steve Buscemi in that.
Yeah, that was
me,
weird.
I was like looking at it and going, right, so there's a little bit of this show that they've cut out. Because obviously it's all about the same album.
And there's no equivalent to it in the documentary you just watched.
Show.
Because initially it's just like, oh, David Cross was at this show. So they were like, oh, they did a thing. But then they do it with Ben Stiller and Steve Buscemi. It's like, right, this is clearly a bit.
Yeah, I suppose they were performing in different cities, and if someone famous was coming to the show, they would give them that little bit to do. But because it wasn't pervasive enough, they didn't count it as part of the canon of the documentary.
Yeah.
So... and also, who do you choose, you know?
I suppose.
So I guess, if you happen to be... It's like a theatre show or a stand-up show. If there's like someone famous in the crowd, they'll talk about them or talk to them that evening, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know about you. I obviously know nothing about Steve Buscemi personally. I was just quite surprised that he's a Beastie Boys fan. You don't really expect it of Steve Buscemi. Do Ben Stiller, I get. David Cross, I get. You just don't. Yeah. You don't think of Steve Buscemi as being a Beastie Boys.
Well, what the hell is Steve Buscemi? You know, he's in stuff like Boardwalk Empire and The Sopranos, but he's also in Grown Ups too.
He's everything, Steve Buscemi, isn't he? He's just kind of everything.
He's kind of brilliant in that respect because he's just literally anything.
He's total chameleon, which is odd for how weird he looks. Yeah,
he doesn't have the face that would lend itself to a I can sort of belong anywhere kind of quality. But then again, maybe it does because he has such a distinctive look. Like he always stands out, whatever he's in.
That's true, but I suppose like you'd expect him to get typecast as like your Garland Greens from Con Air, but that's the look he has, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Bug-eyed sort of weirdo serial killer sort of guy.
Yeah.
But I've never really seen him do anything else like that, actually. Okay. He does sort of do everything. I think the weirdest thing I've seen him in is the film called The Messenger. And that's because, he's part of Adam Sandler's little troupe. Like, he's just in every Adam has. So you expect that. He's a favourite of the Coens, and he's worked with Scorsese and, and Tarantino. God, he gets around, doesn't he? So he's in those,
he's
like...
a big favourite of Hollywood.
He is.
Oh, yeah.
He's, a great indie character actor. But he's in a film called The Messenger. And The Messenger is just a very naturalistic drama about the soldiers that go and tell family members when their loved ones have died in combat.
Right.
They're the ones who go to live in it. It's Ben Foster and Woody Harrelson. And he's in that as just a dad of a kid who's killed.
Okay.
And it's a totally just normal dramatic performance. Like, oh, but why have you got Steve Buscemi to do that? But that for me was like the final stamp of approval that was like, oh, he can do anything. He doesn't just have to be in these distinctive idiosyncratic indies or these broad comedies. He can just be in a drama playing a guy.
Yes.
But yeah, that's a weird little Steve Buscemi tangent.
So that's, thumbs up on Steve Buscemi.
Oh, definitely. I think he's the most featured actor in my DVD collection.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, fair.
Though that may have gone down after I destroyed my copy of Armageddon. I don't know. Is that everything we had to say about Beastie Boys Story?
Yeah, all it's done is just made me realise how sad I'll be when Steve Buscemi dies.
Oh, don't say that now. Why are you saying that?
It's like I didn't realise it until...
Because none of that...
I know, but until that moment I didn't realise, oh yeah, it'll be a loss when Steve Buscemi goes.
As opposed to anybody else. I mean, it'll...
No, but like, there were certain actors, like when Philip Seymour Hoffman died, it was like, oh, that's terrible.
Yeah.
That's a genuine loss.
Yeah.
Heath Ledger as well, but that's different because he died before his time.
Also had Hoffman, to be fair.
Also Hoffman had sort of had a bit more of a career than Ledger was able to.
Yeah.
But yeah, when Steve Buscemi goes, they'll be like, oh, we lost someone really good today.
Because not only that, he was not only a great actor, he was a volunteer firefighter on 9/11, wasn't he?
Oh shit, yeah, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah. What a bloke.
What a man.
Steve Buscemi Appreciation Podcast.
Mate, if that's what we are, I'm happy to go by that.
Yeah,
we're just going to do that from here on out. I love the old Bushy. Okay, shall we move on to the Midnight Gospel then?
Right.
Oh, God, then.
Right, now, as you guys know, I watch everything.
Yes.
And so I knew the Midnight Gospel was coming up for a while. I had no idea what it was, other than it was an animation. And I watched the first episode and decided that I wasn't going to watch anymore.
Okay.
And then, Eddie, you started talking about it. And then it was flagged as a potential conversation topic for the cast. So I thought, right, I'll just get through it then. And I saw 3 episodes, and I refused to watch any more.
Okay.
Which is big for you.
Which is big for me, and we'll talk about that. But, so should we give a brief little synopsis of what the Midnight Gospel is?
Who wants to do that?
It's a trippy cartoon which is about a spacecaster or a podcaster called Clancy. And basically, every time he interviews someone, there's also a story going on, which is usually apocalyptic.
Yeah, he has this, like, simulation machine, basically, right? Alternate universe machine. And he can go to any of these alternate universes in different avatars.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just interviews someone about life or the cosmos or happiness as things are happening in the background.
Yeah. Yes.
Episode 1.
The format it takes is... Because the show is co-created, I believe, by Pendleton Ward, who's the guy behind Adventure Time, and by Duncan Trussell.
Yes. Yeah, he's a stalwart of the Joe Rogan podcast.
Right, okay. Yeah, and he has his own podcast called the Duncan Trussell Family Hour, I think it is.
Yep.
And what they've done with the Midnight Gospel is they've extracted segments of conversations that he's had on that podcast, and he's put them into the Midnight Gospel. And the stories of the episodes and the narrative of the show is sort of built around the core of those those conversations are at the core of the show.
Yeah.
And the show is kind of built around them, and the episodes are kind of built around them.
Yeah, that was something I was good. That's because up until you made that point in a conversation we were having, I did not realise that it was just taken from his own podcast.
It's the actual raw audio, is it?
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. There are moments. I think he has said in interviews that they lifted conversations straight from the podcast.
Yeah.
I think
I looked it up today. It is literally just taken from the episode.
Yeah, they have done that. But there are moments where it does sort of feel like they've re-recorded it because it sort of fits too neatly into the episode around it.
Yeah.
Because like there'll be a moment where the character he's interviewing will start participating in the story. And it's very clearly not something that they would say on a podcast. It even sounds different to how they've been talking when they're on the podcast. So I don't know whether they brought people in to re-record lines so it would fit more neatly into the episode.
Probably.
Well, it's kind of in a way a bedfellow of like Eddie was talking about on the podcast, verbatim theatre. It's sort of in the same school as that, but where you kind of have to adopt a dramaturgical relationship to the text, where it's like,
okay,
you have all this stuff. Now you've got to structure it into a half-hour, 26-minute conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it is just the actual audio.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Yeah, which actually, for me, it was quite a letdown once I realised that was the case, because quite frankly, I probably would just listen to his podcast.
Well, do you know what? That's my main problem with the show.
Yeah.
Was there a thing you were going to say before I do?
I was just going to say that the Ricky Gervais podcast, the Ricky Gervais show with Steve Merchant and Carl Pilkington, when they released their podcasts initially, there was a YouTube fan who made little animations to go along with their conversations.
Yeah.
And then that gave birth to the animated Ricky Gervais show, which was done in a similar manner. But if you watch that show, it's okay, but it is basically just Carl Pilkington speaking with animatics, displaying what...
Yeah.
And it is basically redundant, especially when you can get 2 hours of
yeah, because to give you an example of the Midnight Gospel, so episode 1 is a conversation about drug use while a zombie apocalypse happens.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What is it with Pendleton Wars and making the first episode of a TV show a zombie apocalypse? Because Adventure Time, the first episode of Adventure Time is a zombie apocalypse episode. And
I don't want to diss Adventure Time because I'm not that familiar with it, and I know
neither am I.
I know it's well loved, but it's like the go-to weird thing. Oh man, it's a zombie. Zombies are so in vogue at the moment. And
yeah. Well, they have been for years.
Yeah. I'm so fucking bored of zombies.
Oh, yeah.
So bored of them.
Yeah, 100%.
It's reached the point for me where saying you're bored of zombies is boring. Because it feels like... It's sort of like with superhero fatigue. It feels like for years people have been saying like, oh, superhero fatigue is coming. We're going to get hit with superhero fatigue. Mm-hmm. And like that conversation itself has now become boring because it's been going on for so long. Mm-hmm. Same with zombies. But yeah, sorry, Eddie, I interrupted.
I can't remember where I was at.
Okay.
No, but like, yeah, the thing with the big... So that's like, the first episode, and that is basically the entire format of this show. Like,
yes.
There's one episode where there's a problem with his simulator, so he doesn't actually go through the simulator, but he still has a conversation, and it's like a little bit different, but not really.
That is the best episode, though, episode 6, where he... The podcast conversation doesn't start until about 2/3 into the episode, and because it happens for such a short portion of the episode, they have to actually integrate it into the story, because at this point in the episode, the story is sort of hitting its stride. And I think the point of that episode is Clancy has like anger problems, or he's struggling with his anger, and that's sort of perpetuated by the fact that his alternate reality machine is sort of broken down and he can't visit any parallel worlds, so he sort of goes to visit his neighbors, and then that leads to him finding out how he can fix his alternate reality machine. But by this point he's just infuriated, so his computer that controls the alternate reality machine sends him to go see like this guru to help him like work through his anger. So whereas most of the episodes, and this is my main problem with the show, is that it feels like the podcast conversations and the episodes, the story of the episodes, are both happening alongside each other, rather than the two of them being interwoven.
Yeah. Like,
it feels like the show is flipping a switch. It's like, now we're a podcast, now we're a show, now we're a podcast again.
It's a show that's indifferent to itself. It does feel like something transposed on top of something irrelevant. It's like... playing Pink Floyd's Money over the Wizard of Oz. It just like happens to fit.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's kind of... Right. Let me just go off my rant, okay?
Okay.
So at the Emmys a few years ago, I think it was... a joke was made that a comedy series is now just a drama that's half an hour long.
Okay.
Because, half-hour comedies have been infected by like this transparent girls kind of... They're sort of like little indie films rather than... out-and-out comedies, and I hate this like cult of California self-examination and self-improvement, like meditation and mindfulness. So a few years ago, someone said to me, I don't have room in my life for self-hate right now, and that kind of epitomizes the mindset of this sort of stuff. Where it's like, who talks like that? You're not a person, you're like, oh. Right, so one of the things that sums up the show for me is, in the first episode, he says to the president, I know you're busy right now with the zombie apocalypse, but can we like have a chat? It's this casual tone where you're supposed to go like, oh man, isn't it like weird how we're talking about an apocalyptic scenario and discussing it like it's an everyday thing? Isn't that really...
Yeah.
And I hate this mumblecore thing in animation. this dweeby wallflower as the main character. Just fuck off. Like, I wouldn't want to hang out with you if you were a person. I let alone want to like spend my time being entertained by you.
Well, yeah, the show, very quickly, it sort of felt like early Rick and Morty to me. Sort of like Rick and Morty without the sort of the snark or the edge, quote unquote, that Rick and Morty has, because they'll have like these wacky adventures, but it's also kind of like, you know, the main character, Rick, is a dickhead.
Yeah.
And the show sort of like, it has moments of like where it's sort of trying to be nihilistic, where, you know, there's that episode where Morty Cronenberg's his own universe. They have to go to an alternate reality where they've died and they have to bury their own bodies, and that kind of fucks Morty up a little bit. There's nothing like that. It's sort of like they've taken all of that like edge out of it, and they've just taken the universe hopping premise from Rick and Morty. But he even sounds a bit like Justin Roiland a little bit. It does. Because I didn't know going in that it was part podcast, part animated TV show. But that's sort of what gave it away, was just like, it felt, the delivery of everything felt very improvised. So initially I thought, oh, this is just another one of those, like, you know, we've loosely scripted it, but the whole show is basically improvised. But then from that I found out it was a podcast. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay.
But that's the annoying thing about it, that improvised tone, because that's not unique to this show.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm sure they think that's the appeal. A normal conversation, well, not a normal conversation, but a pretentious conversation playing out over an incidental surrealism. Like, oh man, the people are going to love that. It's going to be so crazy, man. It's going to be so... So there's that line, I think it's the third, maybe it's the second episode, where they're talking about love, and then they're interrupted by one of them saying, oh fuck, that kid just took my eyeball. Like, that's meant to be a hilarious...
Yeah.
You know, it appeals to a certain type of person that would think that's brilliant. And I just find it incredibly grating and irritating.
Right, okay.
The thing for me is because they've taken what's... You know, from the podcast they've taken it from, they've taken like the profound conversation moments.
Yeah.
And then they've slapped it across this animation, which is done in a sort of like trippy way. And to me, I like felt like, as it's sort of going along, the one thing I did feel was the whole point of this is if I was on something, I would be going, oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, but that's another annoying thing, isn't it? That thing every animation gets now, which is, oh, they must have been on drugs making this to get inspired. You know, some people are just creative. It's not that hard to conjure up these visual landscapes. You don't have to be intoxicated to imagine those sorts of things. And also, let's face it, drugs are boring. They are. Drugs are boring. Talking about food and drugs and exercise is boring. I'm sorry, it just is.
I think the problem is not that they're talking about drugs, it's that they're talking about drugs in the same way that drugs are always talked about.
Yes.
Right.
This feels very stereotypical trippy. And that was sort of one of the things that... It gets a bit more out there as the show goes on.
Right.
Like episode 5, I think it is. Like Clancy is interviewing the soul bird of someone who's in prison. And if they die in the prison, time sort of resets.
Right.
So as the conversation between Clancy and this bird is playing out, the person that they're attached to is trying to escape from the prison over and over and over and over and over again. And they keep dying, and they're sort of trying to... I think the thread of that episode is that they're trying to learn from their mistakes, and through that they sort of achieve this kind of...
Nirvana.
Yeah, this sort of like selflessness that allows them to eventually break out of this prison. Like, that isn't just depicting trippy visuals, which is what most of the episodes do.
Yes.
But that episode actually feels like it's somewhat replicating the experience of being like tripping. It feels like it's sort of, rather than just informing the visual language of the show, it feels like it's actually informing the material of the show.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, it is just kind of like, oh, Clancy's talking to a fish man, and they're on a boat made of like that's piloted by cats. But the cats are also currency. And then they go to like this, he buys this cannon that has a hand in it that breaks some ice so they can go to this man who will like, he has like a maze in his head, and it's like, this is very... I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know what the problem is. I don't know whether the problem is like people would find this trippy, and for some reason it's just not resonating with me. So I don't know whether that's my fault because I'm sort of like, I've desensitized myself to this sort of stuff, or whether the show is just not taking itself far enough, which I think is definitely a problem in the first 3 episodes. Like when I watched the first episode and it was basically just a zombie outbreak, I was like, oh, this is going to be rough. Because it just felt like I was so
hackneyed,
basic, you know?
Yeah.
It didn't even feel trippy to me. Like, I was actually annoyed in the first episode because the animation had, like, marketed itself as trippy. And then you see that first episode and it's just, this isn't trippy at all.
There are a few people responsible for this. I'll just name some of the principal offenders. So Joe Rogan has got a lot to answer for.
Right.
Now, I like Joe Rogan a lot. I like his podcast, but he is definitely partly responsible for this. Judd Apatow is partly responsible for this, and Seth Rogen is partly responsible for this. This loser smoking weed, being the hero of the story thing.
Yeah.
And I'm just so tired of it. It's just not interesting. It's, oh man, let's smoke weed and talk about some crazy notions. You're nothing. There's nothing original about that. It's just...
Yeah.
But it's a cliche at this point. I'll give it one positive.
Okay.
I like the idea of a universe simulator and different avatars, wearing different costumes to go and occupy them. Yeah. I think that's a decent premise. I quite like that as a setup. But even the animation is not interesting enough to sustain its purpose.
I don't want to say the animation is bad. I don't think...
Yeah, it's not bad. It's just dull.
Yeah. Because I think bad animation is less common than people think, because in animation you can sort of do anything, and so long as it's coming from a consistent place, so you have like a clear vision for it, you can sort of do anything with animation. Like you've got what was the Tenacious D thing that they did ages ago, where it's like the animation changes frames every 10 seconds or something.
The post-apocalyptic thing.
Yeah, like that's not bad animation, but it's barely animated. It's basically still frames lasting a few seconds.
Yeah.
And yeah, because it's worse, like the animation is not as good as Adventure Time, or it's not as interesting as Adventure Time, but Adventure Time clearly had a much larger team behind it.
Yeah.
Adventure Time was sort of my frame of reference for a lot of stuff during the Midnight Gospel, purely because Pendleton Ward's involved. And Adventure Time is also kind of trippy as well, although it doesn't market itself as trippy, which I think helps. Which is why I think Adventure Time sort of feels of a higher quality than this does.
It's also,
that's a separate point.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Adventure Time is a children's show that happens to have an adult appeal, whereas the Midnight Gospel is not a children's show.
No.
Yeah.
These are all points I've written down. I can't keep up with my points that I've made. What was I saying? It was...
the animation.
Yeah, so you can get away with having animation that's less technically proficient if it has character to it.
Yeah.
And this animation just doesn't have enough character to it to carry me through. No. Like I said, the first couple of episodes, to me, didn't even feel trippy. Towards the end of the show, it gets a lot better. Like episode 5, the visuals really start to push the visuals out there a lot more. And they kind of carry that through to the rest of the season. So that felt a bit better.
I would say 5, 6, and 8 are the best for those.
Yeah, definitely.
Just because if you're going to do something as lazy as, we'll just sort of adapt snippets of my podcast and stick it on an animated show, then you have to justify that by doing something really interesting with the animation.
Well, that's the thing. There's a YouTuber, I say he's a YouTuber, his content is on YouTube, called Felix Cosgrove, and he's one guy and he's an animator. I recommend anyone, go look up Double King, which is an animation he did a couple of years ago now, I think. It's only 10 minutes long. It's a 10-minute short film. But the animation for that is fucking great,
right?
And it's trippy animation, and it feels trippy. There's it's kind of the opposite of the Midnight Gospel in the sense that the Midnight Gospel is just conversations, whereas this has no dialogue. It's a silent cartoon, but it has a really dry sense of humor, which I think complements the trippiness to it.
Right,
and it's got a very sort of. There are moments where the humor almost feels like it's bordering between being kind of. Not horrific, but sort of uncomfortable. Horrific is too strong a word, but it's sort of dipping into, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Whereas Midnight Gospel, it's very typical adult animation humor.
It is.
Where there's a bit in episode 7 where he's talking to Death and they're going down this river and he looks over and there's this creature which has two... It's basically just a dog, but it has 2 buttholes instead of a head.
Right, okay.
It's I've seen shit like that already. Come on now.
It's all very half-assed. It's just further confirmation that there appears to be no quality control in Netflix. Because they come out with masterpieces. They're rare, but basically masterpieces. And then stuff like this. I'm not saying this is the worst they've ever done, but they'll pump out anything. They'll just throw money at anything.
So it's clear you don't like this show, Sam. Eddie, what's your opinion of the Midnight Gospel?
I think it has a lot of flaws, and I'm not saying I would recommend it, but weirdly enough, I enjoyed watching it.
Right.
Okay.
I'm not saying, I'd rush to watch it again.
Yeah.
Because I certainly don't think I would. But yeah, I weirdly kind of enjoyed making my way through it. It wasn't something I could binge watch. I couldn't watch them all in one go. I did take my time watching it.
But it's sort of like a tentative thumbs up from you, is it?
I mean,
is it even a thumbs up?
It's a thumb sideways, possibly leaning to a thumbs up.
Okay. It's at a, what angle would that be? A 30-degree angle?
Yeah, 30, 45 degree angle. I think I'm sort of in between the two of you. Like in the beginning, after like watching the first couple of episodes, I was very much in the same camp as you, Sam.
Yeah.
Where it was almost irritating to me how well received this show had become.
It is well received.
Because it is. It's a very well received show.
Yeah.
As time went on and the show started to feel like it was filling its premise and filling its potential a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Like I said, episode 6 genuinely feels like what every episode should have been.
Right.
Where it's basically a story that the podcast conversations complement rather than the show just flicking a switch. Like now it's a podcast now. I think it doesn't help as well that like often the characters are like on some sort of journey or they're engaging in some sort of like fight while they're having these podcast conversations. And because the audio is lifted, everyone's talking like we are now, where it's like it's very calm and it's very casual. But the characters like flipping around and fucking cutting people's heads off, and like, but they're not exerting themselves. Doesn't sound like so. There's a clear disconnect between.
It is, and it's disjointed and it's disjunct. But again, I think they would say, "Oh man, that's part of the appeal, right?" Is it so casual how they're approaching all this stuff? How convenient
that the appeal of this show is not doing it properly.
That's what I mean. It's all just lazy. It's just very lazy.
No, I wouldn't call it lazy because you got to bear in mind this is the first of its kind.
So
it's sort of
it's not the first of its kind. It might be the first. No, it's not the first of its kind.
How's it not the first of its kind?
Well, the Ricky Gervais show predates this.
Yeah, but the Ricky Gervais show, it was just the podcast audio.
Yeah,
and the visuals would sort of accompany the visuals. It would be like the visuals would just sort of mirror what's being said. There was no story to the Ricky Gervais show.
No, okay, but I mean, I think you have to caveat and qualify a fair bit to say this is the first of its kind.
It's the first of its kind in the sense that I think it's fair to say it's half podcast, half animated TV show. Because it does feel like, I mean, the conversations that they have are thematically linked to what's happening in the episode. But most of the episodes that have very, very loose stories that the characters are either tangentially participating in, or you have like episode 2, for example, where the entire episode they're on a conveyor belt and they're like being funneled down these tubes and they're doing literally nothing. The story is literally just happening around them. They have no agency in it whatsoever. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's lazy. And I wouldn't, because I don't know, laziness sort of implies like they either didn't care about the subject matter or they didn't like conduct their own research. They were just sort of copying what other people were doing.
No,
it doesn't feel like that.
No, when
this is clearly
so when
Duncan
I say
Trussell's...
lazy, I mean they just didn't put enough work into it.
Okay, well, I mean, this was in production for 7 years, you know.
Yeah, but I mean,
I think it's perfectly valid to question where all of that time was spent.
Yeah,
but I don't think it's fair to say that they didn't put enough work into this show. You know.
Yeah, I can say that. I can say in the same way that I can say I don't think enough work was put into Avatar. Okay. Avatar they spent 12 years making, and the script is a piece of dog shit.
Yes, well, that's because they didn't use their time well, because they didn't put time into things that needed to be. So it's possible that in Midnight Gospel they were focusing on the wrong things, or they couldn't push it far enough. Yeah, you know, like they sort of like they came up with a couple of episodes, like episode 1 and 2, where the podcast is sort of happening and the episode's happening, and it feels like, oh, we're sort of this feels like as far as we can push this. So they just made that the basis rather than thinking, okay, we found a way for the two elements to occupy the same space. Now, how do we get it so that they're actually like intertwining?
But there's
complementing each other.
A distinction, wouldn't you say, between saying that the people making it were lazy and that the show is lazy? I think when most people,
definitely.
Yeah. So when I say the show, I don't mean they were lazy. I mean the show feels lazy in that it's just kind of not really doing much of anything.
Well, it's sort of. Words escape me, but basically by episode 3 the show feels formulaic, and I think considering the subject matter, considering that it's this guy, considering that it's a trippy animated adult TV show in which they're not constrained by a language barrier or a violence barrier or a sexual content barrier, and this guy can just go to visit any universe where anything could be occupying it and they can have any conversation they want. The fact that 3 episodes in, an hour of content in, it already feels routine and formulaic, I think that's a major problem.
Oh yeah.
And again, later episodes do slightly address this, but it takes way too... Like, I don't begrudge you for giving up on episode 3, Sam. Even though I feel like you've missed the show at its best, I completely understand why you gave up on it.
Well, there's a trend in animation in particular of the first half of a season not being very good, and then it finding its feet in the second half.
That's basically the only thing that carried me through. If we weren't doing a podcast episode on this, I would have given up after episode 1. But I sort of suspected that this would be like a bit of a BoJack situation where halfway through it would become something else.
And that's fair enough. Like, I'll take you both at your word that it improves. My problem with it is, and you know me, I'll give anything a chance.
Yeah.
I so detest the spirit, what I perceive to be the governing spirit of the show. I can't even give it the time of day.
Okay.
Just that thing of the West Coast. Oh man, let's sit around and talk about like mushrooms, and then like how is a person happy these days? I'm just sick of it. I'm tired of it, and I can't bear it anymore.
No. Well, there's 2 points that I haven't raised, which I'll raise quickly. But you talked about the premise, the idea of the universe simulator in the Avatar.
Yeah.
The simulator does not need to be a vagina.
No, it does, because then how will it be for adults?
Well, there you go.
No, but it just just doesn't.
We need to make it for adults. Let's put blood and pussies in it. You know.
It feels it's a bit like Ted, isn't it? Which is it's a guy in his teddy bear, and that's a similar thing of smoking weed and just being guys, being douchey guys. But the whole thing of that is it's a teddy bear that swears.
Yeah,
that's what makes it adult. It's just not good enough.
Yeah,
there are okay. So you've got Adventure Time, right?
Yep.
Which is I think it is sort of made with children in mind. It's made to appeal to children, and it's marketed to children as well.
Yeah.
So they do have language barriers and violence barriers, and they need to be careful about what they explore, because if they go too far, then it can become, even though they're not doing anything like vulgar, it can become unsuitable for children. Like if any of these conversations from Midnight Gospel, like the conversations about death that they have in the later episodes, if they were put in Adventure Time, a lot of people would probably be uncomfortable showing that to their kids, or uncomfortable with their kids watching it. So what it sort of does weirdly is, when it sort of flirts with the idea of pushing the boat beyond what people would generally be comfortable showing to kids, it feels taboo without actually being taboo, right?
Right.
So, for example, I think it's Adventure Time. I'm pretty sure it's Adventure Time. I should probably have checked my facts. I should probably have done research before doing the podcast. But there's an episode of Adventure Time where Finn brings a toaster to life, I think it is. So he sort of like makes this face on the front of the toaster so it would be able to see and talk and whatever. And the toaster comes to life. But then for some reason, the face appears on the side of the toaster. So it can't, like, when it's trying to move forward, it's actually moving sideways. So it doesn't have like full control of its own body. And it starts getting like really upset. It's like, why did you create me? And it gets like really like, it's pleading with Finn. I think it asks Finn to kill it at some point as well. Like, that's not taboo in and of itself. That's not like uncomfortable, but because it's in a kid's show, it feels more uncomfortable than it actually is.
Right.
There's another example I have is like, actually I don't know if I need another example, because the point I'm making is that this show starts off with the character swearing and sticking his head in a vagina. Therefore, it's like the show has to really try hard to be like violent and vulgar, and yeah, exactly, because it's most of it. There's like one moment where I was like genuinely like, oh, okay. And that's in the final episode. Clancy gives birth to his mother, and it shows like the mother coming out of like his groin.
Right.
So it's an actual birth scene that they've animated. Yeah. That felt like, oh, okay, that's kind of gross. But other than that, the anime.
I'm not gonna lie. I'd love to see you in the room watching someone give birth. I think it'd be fucking amazing.
Oh, okay.
I think it'd be funny.
What the fuck's wrong with you?
But yeah,
like the most of the.
What's that? That's nothing. That's just gruesome. You know what I mean? That's
that was going to be my point. It's the vulgarity and the swearing and all that. It's just toothless.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like it's there purely so this can be marketed to adults. It doesn't actually feel like you needed it to be violent.
Well, there's a few things that feel like an attempt at self-justification. That's one of them. Another is this. I don't know if this carries on, but the songs you get at the end of every episode.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
that feels like an attempt to go, oh, let's do something to justify the existence of this as a television show.
Okay,
but again, everything was just serving to bug me. So
that's fair. Well, say the other point then that I had, which I feel like George will be a point for you. It is established prior to the last episode that he doesn't exactly have parents.
Yes, he has a conversation with Death, and he directly tells Death that both of his parents are dead.
And then
the final episode is a conversation between him and his mother.
Right.
So it's like, right, you can at least remain consistent. Like, if the whole point of the show is anything can happen, like in terms of like, well, we could go to any universe and see anything happening, that's fine. But this is a TV show. You need some consistency.
Well, as we'll talk about in Doctor Who, boundaries are important.
Yes.
But what's this about him giving birth to his mother then?
Right, in that episode, his mother kind of shows up.
Yeah.
And what I thought was actually a nice detail during the episode is as the conversation is unfolding, you can see Clancy and his mother visibly aging. They're both getting older.
Yeah.
So she obviously ages to the point where she dies.
Yeah.
Then she sort of transforms into a mushroom. Oh, this actually encapsulates my problem with the disjunct between the podcast conversations and the animation, the story of the animation and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're having a conversation about like feeling the inside of your own hand. His mother's basically asking him to like look at your hand and try to feel the inside of it. And then she dies, and Clancy starts crying, and emotional music starts playing, and I went, oh, you think I care?
Yeah.
You haven't like built these characters up at all, and now you're giving me this, you're throwing this emotional beat my way. But anyway, she dies. This mushroom sort of comes from out of her. A spore falls off the mushroom. It hits Clancy, and he sort of instantly becomes pregnant.
Right.
The teddy bears that are sort of the people in the world that they're occupying then take him to the hospital. He gives birth to his mother as a baby, and then they just carry on the conversation like nothing happened.
Yep.
Okay.
Like, well, no, he just gave birth to his own, like, if you want me to actually invest in this character and actually believe this character, like, he'd have something to say if he gave birth to his own mother, surely.
But this is the thing, it's not, when I was watching it didn't feel like I was watching a character in a story. It felt like I was listening to Duncan Trussell.
Well, that's the thing. I listened a little bit. The most recent episode of Duncan Trussell's Family Hour, he has one of the storyboard artists from the Midnight Gospel on the show. So I listened to a little bit, and I didn't listen to the whole thing. And they do, like, there's a couple of moments where they sort of talk about, like, character beats. Like, in the first episode, the president is gunning down zombies, but Clancy isn't doing... Sorry?
That's
Oh, you laughed because it's so
absurd.
Weird. Yeah. This review is a bit nastier than I wanted it to be. Because I started out hating... I don't know what I think about this show.
Right.
But I certainly don't hate it. You seem to hate it.
I kind of hate it. I hate its perceived audience, and I hate, but like I said, the spirit that governs it.
Right. But anyway, yeah, they're on the podcast and they're having a conversation about the show. And yeah, they say the president is shooting zombies, but Clancy doesn't. And one of them says, that's just Clancy in a nutshell to me.
Right.
So they are perceiving Clancy as though he's a real character.
Yeah.
But apart from episode 6 and arguably episode 8, there are no character beats. He doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
He just goes into an alternate universe, he interviews a person, he brings back a pair of shoes and the audio from the podcast, and that's sort of it. That's his place in the show.
Episode where he brings back a flower.
Oh, he brings back a flower that can bring people back to life. Yeah. And that's just that becomes a running gag, I guess.
He gets drunk and throws up on the flower.
Yeah, and then it dies, and then he brings it back to life, and then mice build a shrine to it, and then that's it.
Yeah, you're not selling it to me.
No, I didn't think we were, to be honest.
No.
I kind of assumed, based on the way this conversation had gone, that we had not sold it to you in the slightest.
I wouldn't discourage people from seeking it out, but I would discourage them from making any more of it.
Yeah.
This show feels like an experiment, and the experiment is over now. You know?
I think if you're going to
by episode 3, you've done, like I said, by episode 3, it feels routine. It feels like they've done everything they can with the format of the show. And even though 6 is sort of a standout and 5 feels like it does the premise the best, I don't feel like there's anything else you could... The only thing you could possibly do is just make more of what's already there. And if you do that, the people who like it will start to resent it.
If they came back with a second series and, it was more like episode 6, fine.
Yeah, but that's sort of...
But that's what they've got to do.
Feeds into what I'm saying about, like, it's just more of the same. And if you just release more of the same, people who like it will begin to resent it.
Yes.
Just leave it as it is. Go and do something else. Because this is the final point I'll make about the Midnight Gospel. This doesn't feel like the ideal format to experience anything that the show has to offer. Because I think you said at the beginning of the conversation, Eddie, that like you would just rather listen to the podcast.
Yes, and I stand by that.
Yeah, that's the thing though. Like you put these podcast even if this is just seen as like a highlight reel for his podcast, like with a podcast, there's 2 ways you can engage with it, right? You can listen to it, so you can put it on and you can just sort of watch the timer tick away, or you can like put it on in the car and like as you're driving, even though you're doing another thing, the main thing your mind is doing is consuming the podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that you can do is you can put it on in the background while you're doing another thing, while you're playing a video game or while you're doing your taxes or whatever the fuck, right? In which instance, you're not completely consuming the podcast, but you're sort of following the melody of the conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the Midnight Gospel, you can watch it or you can't.
Yeah.
Because you can't treat it like a podcast and just put it on and listen to it, because story beats interrupt the podcast conversations. So you have to watch the animation to see what the fuck they're on about.
Yeah.
And also, it's animated. It's demanding your attention. And you can't watch it as an animated TV show because this podcast keeps interrupting it, you know? So this doesn't feel like... The Midnight Gospel feels like the worst of both worlds. It's not ideal as a podcast and it's not ideal as an animated TV show. As I say, I wouldn't discourage people from seeking it out because there are people who would look at the trailer and think, oh yeah, that's exactly my thing. It probably is your thing. It's not my thing. Yeah, I think that's the closest I'm going to get to a sort of a final opinion on the show, is it's not my thing. Because I started out hating it, and then I sort of ended up feeling disappointed, and then I ended up thinking, all right, I kind of know what it was doing now, but that's sort of it. You know, I don't really have unfortunately, I don't have a clean summary of the show.
The show doesn't have a clean summary of itself.
No.
And I feel like that's probably where we're going to leave it.
Yes.
We've still got the nice big old thing of Doctor Who to talk about.
We do. Is that what we're about to jump into?
I think so.
Okay.
Series 6.
Oh, here he goes.
Right, am I doing the bass or am I doing the do-do-do?
I feel like you have to do the do-do-do, don't you?
Yeah.
Go on then.
Who's doing the bass then?
Just do it on its own.
No, I need a bass line.
Just play it on its own. Go on.
No, I need a bass line.
I'm not doing the bass
Why
line.
are you both so opposed to doing the bass for Doctor Who?
It's only doing this every single time we do it.
But we've made it a thing now. We have to do it.
Yeah, and I was not comfortable making it a thing, but we made it a thing. I was forced into it.
I want it put on official record. That Sam and Eddie are not pulling their weight during this podcast.
I am more than happy to admit that.
Okay.
Some of us like getting to the point.
I would sincerely like to apologise to the listeners of this podcast for what you are currently hearing. Sam is currently in the process of
cutting notes on this at all.
Sam is currently in the process of cutting off his own ears.
No, that would have been appropriate for the last episode, Sam.
I just I had to take my headphones off there for a second.
Right, okay.
That was horrible.
Okay, thank you.
I've apologised to listeners. It's fine.
Right, A Christmas Carol.
Yes, Christmas special. We're back to we didn't have a Christmas special in Series 5.
No.
We're back to the Christmas specials.
Oh,
yeah.
lucky we. Okay. Is Michael Gambon gay?
I'm not sure. I would believe it.
Yeah, I don't think he is. I think he's made jokes about being gay in the past.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely wouldn't surprise me.
Why do you say that?
Because him hamming it up is quite camp.
Okay.
Which is weird for a thasp like him. Whenever someone is trying to subvert the sacred, angels or zombies or vampires, and make it banal, they're always called fucking Jeff. Jeff or Steve. It's one of those two.
Who's Jeff? What are you talking about?
There's someone called Jeff in this episode. I saw this a long time ago now. I can't even remember.
No. Are you talking about Jeff the Fish from The Impossible Astronaut?
No, I'm not.
Jim the Fish. Sorry, no. Hang on, Jim the Fish. Who the fuck's Jeff?
There is a character called Jeff in A Christmas Carol.
I've genuinely no idea who this Jeff is.
It's near the beginning, whoever it is. It's probably in that opening.
I would say the family in the opening scene do not have anyone called Jeff in their family.
No, it wouldn't be that, because that would be okay. It would be something.
The skyfish don't have any names. They're just fish.
This was definitely in there, but I can't remember.
Okay. I'll have to trust you on that.
Eddie, do a Google if you're not already. He says in this episode, I've never met anyone who wasn't important.
Yes.
Your companion was Donna Noble, mate.
Oh, that's
yeah.
We're past Series 4. Leave Donna alone.
As far as he was concerned, she saved the world and became the most important person ever. So
yeah,
no,
he's wrong. they've got a very Sherlock-style deduction sequence.
Well, I think at this point, Stephen Moffat was writing both Doctor Who and Sherlock.
Yes, he was.
So, yeah, that actually is a commonly held criticism, is that Sherlock and Doctor Who start to bleed together.
Right.
I think the Radio Times did it. There was like a quiz they did where it was sort of to highlight the problem, but they sort of put quotes from the Doctor alongside quotes from Benedict Cumberbatch's Sherlock to see if people could tell the difference. Because, yeah, they do become very, very similar, those shows.
Yeah. There's a few laugh out loud moments when it's trying to be serious. I say a few. There's one that stood out to me. And that is when the Doctor is kind of rewriting Michael Gambon's memory.
Yeah.
There's a moment where Michael Gambon goes, but that never happened. But it did. That is
yeah, and he like cuts to a different angle and the camera zooms in as he like turns to the camera. But it did. Yeah.
I laughed out loud at that.
Okay.
I actually quite like this episode. It's my favourite Christmas episode.
Right, okay.
Thus far.
Because this is one of those episodes that I have had absolutely no compulsion to return to.
Yeah.
Basically since it aired.
Mm-hmm.
I watched it for Catherine Jenkins and that's it.
Yeah, Catherine Jenkins. I've realised it's my mother's fault.
What?
No, just in general. It's my mother's fault. No. This whole, like, this sort of turbulent relationship that I've got with musicals, I think that's my mother's fault.
Right.
Because she hates musicals. And I remember, like, when it was announced that Catherine Jenkins was going to be in the episode, my mother was like, oh, fuck, I don't like Catherine Jenkins.
Right.
And I think that's why, because when I saw Catherine Jenkins, I sort of went, ugh. But I've never listened to any of her music.
It's very interesting. It's very interesting because you're supposed to think the opposite of what your parents think.
Right. Okay.
That's what you do as a teenager, isn't it? You reject. You like all the things they don't like, and you hate all the things they do.
Oh, my apologies. I didn't realise I was being a child wrong.
You were.
Okay. I'm glad we got that out of the way.
Just for clarification, he refers to Santa Claus as Jeff.
That's it. Santa Claus's real name is Jeff.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. We'll get to it when we get to it.
Well, I know that Nick Frost plays old Saint Nick, doesn't he?
Yes. So. And I don't think he's ever referred to as Jeff in that episode.
No, of course he's not. It's a terrible. This episode is terrible.
Really? You think this episode's terrible?
I think my review of the series is not positive. So
my review of the series isn't positive.
Yeah,
Spoilers.
The season's terrible, but this episode's all right.
Because I was pleasantly surprised returning to it. It's not an episode that I would rush back to.
No.
But I think it's cemented the idea that Stephen Moffat is not only good, but he's at his best when he's doing single standalone episodes.
Yes, and in this one he plays well with time again.
Yeah, because they do follow, it's called A Christmas Carol, and they do literally follow the format of A Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
Like the Doctor goes back to Kazran's childhood, and he changes his childhood, and that's him being the ghost of Christmas past.
Mm-hmm.
The story is that Amy and Rory are on this ship that's stuck in the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. On a honeymoon, pointlessly dressed as a Roman centurion and a policewoman.
Well, they're not pointlessly dressed as a Roman centurion and a police.
We didn't need it again. You didn't.
Yeah, but
no, you absolutely didn't. I don't care.
It's a gag for the adults, isn't it? It's a gag for the adults.
Yeah, but you don't need it.
They're in their honeymoon. What the fuck else are they going to dress up as? Come on now.
Well, nothing.
Yeah,
but what do they dress up as before they dress up with nothing? Dress up as
just
nothing.
Stay
before they
nothing.
don't wear anything.
It's called, you could put on a nice shirt and then she could put on a dress. Leave it at that. You do not need to have them dressed up as a Roman centurion and the police.
I mean, you are going to have the most vanilla honeymoon, aren't you, Eddie?
Maybe this is. Oh, sorry.
Wear a nice shirt.
Hang on, from Mr. Kinky over here. Maybe it's because like an Asians doesn't count as a kink. Maybe it's because I'm a straight man. I understand the kinkiness of like a woman dressing up as a police officer, even if I'm not really into it myself.
Yeah.
But it's not like he's not Russell Crowe. He's not like sexy as a gladiator. He's just kind of he's dweeby, innit? He's Rory. He's not like a hunk.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't make Rory sexy, I guess.
No, you can't.
But then again, that like Roman centurion outfit, he was a Roman centurion at what would have been the sexiest time in his life for Amy, anyway.
Right.
Like the time in his life where he dedicated 2,000 years to protecting
so he
her.
wore that outfit for 2,000 years without washing it.
Yeah,
so I guess it's sort of symbolic sex appeal.
Right.
As opposed to actual sex appeal.
There is no way that thing would have smelt good. I'm sorry.
It's gonna be a bit musty, innit?
I'm pretty sure he would have washed it.
When?
Eddie.
I don't remember.
He had 2,000 years to wash his clothes.
Yeah, so when
for
did they
most of those 2,000 years, he was on his own, so he could probably walk around in the bath while it's just airing out on the radiator or whatever.
He can't abandon her and just walk around in his nads. Come on now.
Airing out on the radiator.
They probably have radiators at the end of the universe. I don't know.
No, I don't know. Yeah, I thought this was an alright episode.
Yeah,
it's nicely.
I like the way that it does the whole past present. I really like the way they do Ghost of Christmas Future.
Yeah,
where they sort of do an inversion where it's because we're sort of following Michael Gambon Kazaran, which is the older version of Kazaran. We think that like the Doctor is going to present a Ghost of Christmas Future to Michael Gambon.
Yeah,
but it's actually he presents Michael Gambon to the kid version of himself.
Yes, it's a very Moffatian technique, isn't it?
Yes.
I really like the idea that the Doctor can have this lifelong relationship with people that's basically like an hour of his own time.
Yep.
I really like that. I think that's great. I quite like the idea of the spectacle of the episode being observed by Michael Gambon. I like that, of him watching. Yep. I thought that was really good. It's a nice little gag about the psychic paper shorting out, right? But what would it have said? Because he says to the kid, I'm a mature and responsible adult. What would it have said on his psychic paper? Would it just have said that? A mature and responsible adult? Yeah,
a mature, responsible adult written in orange crayon with like the R backwards, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was quite charming. I didn't hate Katherine Jenkins in it. Like I said, it's the best Christmas episode so far for me.
Okay.
A shark is a reindeer. You gotta love that.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta love that. Come on, Eddie. You gotta love that.
No.
You don't love that? Oh, for God. If you're
really
not enjoying Doctor Who for those things, what are you finding to like in Doctor Who if it's not stupid
I genuinely really didn't like it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. What the fuck is up with this face spider bullshit? You know when the Doctor visits like young Kazran and he said like, oh, there are these things called face spiders where they're spiders but they have like baby heads.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they hide behind your cupboards.
Yeah.
What the fuck's that all about?
It sounds like that thing from Toy Story, doesn't it?
Yeah.
One of the toys in Sid's
because it's just a
bedroom.
thing the Doctor does his usual like rambleness.
Yeah.
And that's just something he says. But like, yeah, it's fucking terrifying. Why the fuck would you tell me of that?
He's doing that all the time though, isn't he? Just like
side
references to things like that. My alternate title, I'm quite happy with this actually. My alternate title for this episode is Slapex Predator. Sorry.
Yeah, all right.
I'm fine.
Yeah, not too bad.
Guess a thumbs up from me.
I suppose it's a thumbs up from me as well.
Yeah.
No.
Not from you, is it? But we had an episode that you both liked that I didn't. And now we've got an episode that Eddie doesn't like and we both like.
Yeah, the triangle
so we
is
kind of
complete.
completed the triangle. Yeah.
Okay, we'll do the next two as two. As one, rather.
I think that's fair, yeah.
So The Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon.
Yes.
I have basically nothing to say about this episode.
Okay, then.
Like, very, very little was occurring to me watching it. I noticed there was handheld camera. I don't know if that's quite new or whether they've done that a lot before, but it felt like they were leaning on it a bit more in this episode.
The cinematography in general seems to have taken a step up a little bit since Series 5.
Yeah.
During this two-parter, and then they take a bit of a break until like episode 8, and then the cinematography gets really good again, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
We'll talk about the episodes as they occur, but like there are examples like when they've sort of giving him that kind of Viking burial or whatever it is, when they set fire to the boat and push him out in the lake, and it's the shot of the four of them looking out.
Yeah.
And it's all dark, and the lake is like, it's the fire lighting the lake. Like, that's a really, really nice shot.
It is. Well, it's hard to make. It's like cheating almost, isn't it? Like The Revenant winning Best Cinematography. It's like, it's hard to make those American vistas look ugly.
Yes, that's true.
I'm not denuding it. It is good cinematography.
The one thing I will say, though, is with the upgrade in cinematography, they're also shooting the TARDIS from multiple angles now.
Yeah.
Which means that you can see the studio wall where they clearly haven't built the rest of the set.
Right,
I think
didn't notice that.
Genuinely.
Okay.
Yeah, if you look at like when the TARDIS is sort of, when it's facing away from the door of the TARDIS, because obviously the TARDIS has very like decorative walls where it has these like round things and then sort of like, you know, these pillars and whatnot. And then there's a wall behind Matt Smith where it just looks like a blank featureless wall,
right,
with like a couple of struts coming out of it.
Okay.
It's like, oh, you clearly haven't built the entire set. You've just like shoved it against the studio wall, you know?
Yeah.
That was really distracting.
I find the flirtation between the Doctor and River too much.
Okay.
I mean, it's her more than him, but it's just a bit cringy, innit? It's just like...
I think she's a bit much this season in general.
She is. I think you said it on the last episode, Eddie, that I would form an opinion of River.
Yep.
Or maybe it's one before that. Yeah, I've got an opinion now.
Yeah.
I just don't like it.
Is it kind of to just say you have an opinion and leave it at that, rather than say what that opinion is?
Yeah, maybe you can infer everything you need to from that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. just the sweeties and the wink wink. And is it in this episode that she makes a reference to screaming during sex?
Yep.
That's a bit not on in it for a kid's show, but
there's a couple of moments I do like that. I like when Matt Smith says to River, "Oh, you're doing it again. What am I doing? You have that face. What face? That he's clever when he's hot face."
Yeah.
And River says, "This is my normal face," and he goes, "Yes, it is."
Yeah.
I like that. Like that one moment of flirting is like, that's okay.
Yeah, that's
like
all right.
that.
That's okay. Yeah. But I don't know, like they're doing a lot of work to make her cool, aren't they? Like the firing the gun and then putting it back in the holster on the hip. And
it gets a bit on. And then when she in Day of the Moon where she shoots the silence without looking, like that's like, all right, okay, we get it. Stop it now.
Yeah.
What do you think of the silence?
What about like their design or just
them in general as a concept? Because I would say that like obviously the Weeping Angels are Stephen Moffat's most iconic monster, but if you want to sort of highlight an iconic monster of the Matt Smith era, it's probably the silence.
Yeah, it's quite a good design, Slender Man-y sort of vibes.
Yeah, I think it's a really good concept as well that they're sort of memory proof. So the moment you stop looking at them, you forget that you've ever seen them.
Yeah, that's quite a cool villain idea. That. I didn't have any strong feelings towards them as I was watching it. Now we're talking about it. Yeah, I like that idea. Calling a species the silence bugs me on a grammatical level. I don't like that.
Okay, well, it's going to bug you even more.
Oh, no. It's abused a lot this season.
Also, I think it's worth pointing out that the silence is the plural. Silent, I think an individual one is called a silent.
A silent, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it opens it up. It's rife with linguistic abuse.
Yes.
That's all I got. My alternate title is, I couldn't even be asked, so it's just Apollo 11 because he's the 11th Doctor. That's all I got.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Oh, fuck. Oh, is this a sign of things to come? I couldn't be asked, so I just named it after a thing that's in the episode.
Once or twice, but because Apollo 11, it's obviously Apollo and then the number 11.
Yeah.
I've just replaced it with the word 11, and that is all. That is the effort I'm going to for this.
Okay.
What did you
enough.
call the second half then?
No, they're both Apollo 11.
Okay. Oh, have we discussed Day of the Moon as well?
Yeah.
Oh shit. Oh, I'll go through my notes then.
Go on.
Matt Smith regenerates, or he starts regenerating.
Yeah.
We'll come back to that.
Right.
Just something to keep in the back of your mind.
Right.
Why the fuck is Canton hunting down Amy, Rory, and River in the opening of Day of the Moon?
As a cover-up.
Did they ever say that?
Yeah, it's a cover-up.
It's implied.
Because what happens is Amy shoots the little girl at the end of The Impossible Astronaut, and then all of a sudden we cut to the Day of the Moon, and Amy is on the run, and then she gets murdered. And River and Rory also are on the run and get murdered. Then we find out the Doctor is being imprisoned in this prison made out of the densest substance in the universe, which, we've literally just done the Pandorica. Why the hell are you doing this is the most secure prison in the universe. And then Canton sort of locks himself in with the Doctor, and then they go save Amy, Rory, and River, and then the episode starts. And you're like, well, what the fuck was that all about?
Yeah.
There's a lot of that, actually, as we'll get further into the show. There's a lot of, well, what the fuck was that all about?
Yeah.
I think the tagline for this series.
I just stopped thinking after a certain point. I mean, I think on the last episode, Eddie, you said, from now on, it is just individual episodes.
Yep.
You just have to hope for good individual episodes.
Yep.
So that is what I was hoping for.
Yeah.
It mostly failed at that as well, to be fair. But
in the previous, I'll just quickly fly through my notes now. In the previous series, in the Vampires of Venice, they say the whatever the name of the main woman, she says the reason they abandoned their home planet is because it was destroyed by the silence. If the silence are memory proof, how the fuck would they remember that the silence destroyed their home planet?
Maybe she wrote it down while she could see him.
Yeah, I mean, the whole destruction of a planet, that's something that could survive individual memory loss. Other people would know, not just the people who experienced it.
No. The destruction of the planet would survive the memory loss, but the cause probably wouldn't.
No, I mean, because other people would know, not just the people who experienced it.
Okay.
That information would get out,
But how would it get out? How would you share that information if you can't remember the information?
Tweet it.
Oh, our planet was destroyed. How did that happen? I don't know.
Put it on Twitter.
But I mean, people who weren't on the planet would know that it was destroyed by the silence.
But how? They're memory proof. No one remembers the silence. Nobody knows who they are.
Is it a case of you see them and you forget them, or you comprehend them and you forget them?
As soon as you turn your back on them.
Yeah, all everything that could relate to them is erased from your memory.
So if it wouldn't be possible. But if you were now to tell me about the silence, I would forget about the silence instantly.
Yes.
Right.
I think that's the idea.
If that's the idea, that doesn't work at all then, because they're referenced several times by several people.
If it is
throughout the whole show,
just the image of the silence, the physical form of the silence you can't remember, then that's okay.
That seems a bit more workable.
Yeah, I think at one point they do specify that anything pertaining to the silence is erased from your memory, in which case there's no fucking fighting that.
No, nothing. Yeah, you can't do anything.
You can do.
No.
It's impossible.
They wouldn't even have a name, you know?
No, exactly. And the last thing I'll say about Day of the Moon.
Yeah.
That I just want to bring up that little scene with Nixon where Canton Delaware III is like they mentioned earlier that the reason he was chucked out of the FBI is because he wants to marry somebody.
A homosexual.
Yes, as the doctor is leaving, Nixon is sort of talking to Canton and he says, "This person you want to marry, I assume they're black?" And he goes, "Yes." And Nixon goes, "Well, contrary to what people think, maybe I'm a little more liberal than people give me credit for." And then Canton says, "He is black." And then Nixon goes, "I think the moon is far enough for now, don't you think?" And then Canton says yes. And then Nixon like turns the camera and does like a funny face, like that was close face, as like quirky music plays. What the fuck is going on there?
I quite like that.
It felt so strange. I don't even know what it was trying to...
Like an Archie Bunker 70s sitcom type of reaction.
Yeah, but I don't even... Like, were they making fun of Nixon? Were they making fun of the idea of marrying a black man?
Oh, no. They were making fun of the attitude of the time, weren't they? I mean, it's an odd thing to apply quirky music.
Yes.
Because, you sympathise with the character who's going, "Oh, it's Abbott and Costello, right?"
Yeah.
That is odd. But yeah, I mean, we're not meant to like Nixon anyway. No. So I guess they take that as a given. If you know who Nixon is, you don't like him, so...
Yeah.
I see.
But,
okay.
Yeah. The moon's far enough.
Yeah, and that's everything I have to say on Impossible Planet and Day of the Moon. Did you say whether they were thumbs up or thumbs down?
Thumbs down.
Okay. I would say The Impossible Planet is better than Day of the Moon, but yeah, I wouldn't really... Yeah, no. I'm in no hurry to return to those episodes at all. Nor am I in a hurry to return to the Curse of the Black Spot.
Yes, wank.
Yeah. What a terrible fucking episode.
It is a terrible fucking episode.
Yep.
The thing that annoyed me the most about it was... I get what they're doing, and I understand how it's a staple of the show, but are there any terrestrial myths that don't have a sci-fi context? Like Krakens and Norse mythology, like it's all got to be, oh no, they were aliens.
Yeah.
Can't we just have some fucking myth? Like there's nothing left. They've now taken sirens and pirates and turned that into something different.
Does that happen?
Well, it does for the sirens, doesn't it?
No. I mean, it's just myth. Like there is no scientific explanation. I wonder if the show has ever done that. It must have done that. If not in New Who, then in the classic series.
Maybe. Yeah. Rory is becoming the Kenny of Doctor Who.
Explain?
Well, he keeps dying.
Oh, yeah.
The dude's got to stop dying. It's getting old, man.
Yeah. I think the fact that they start making jokes in the show about how commonly he dies.
Yeah.
Like, even if the show's in on the joke.
Oh, sorry about that.
It's alright. Well, I'll get rid of that. Unless you want me to keep that sneeze, Eddie.
It's fine, hang on, I'm just gonna...
It's important to the canon of the podcast that you sneezed when you did.
Just gonna...
You powdering your nose?
No, I'm putting hand sanitizer on.
Oh, good man. See?
Oh, yeah. Right, rub that right up to the mic, Eddie. Right up to the mic.
Lube.
Oh,
okay. That's all I got as well. I think this is a terrible episode, isn't it?
There's nothing to say, really. Hugh Bonneville is no pirate.
No, he's certainly not.
I don't care what the show tries to tell me. He is no pirate.
He's the captain of the Englishmen who go hunt the pirates. He's not a fucking pirate.
Yeah.
He's not a privateer. Is that what they're called?
Nope.
Musketeer?
No, privateer
that's something else entirely.
Yeah, it is. I think privateer, it might be a synonym of pirate. Okay. I can't remember. But yeah, no, he works for Her Royal Majesty, Queen Victoria, going hunting the pirates.
I know that's what he did do. Like, he turned to piracy. Yeah. But still, he is no pirate.
No.
The one positive I will say about this episode, though, Karen Gillan rocks a pirate outfit.
She rocks most outfits, to be fair.
She rocks most outfits, but she looks good as a pirate.
Okay, all right.
Like when Rory says you should dress as a pirate more often,
fucking Joel, put it away. Don't do it on the fucking podcast, for God's sake.
Yeah, I
did not want to see that. I did not want to see that.
I was hoping that would have like a slide whistle effect. It'd be like, whoop, it's up, but it's not.
manipulate that piccolo. That's so my alternate titles are, I think these are all this was quite difficult because obviously I had to come up with a pirate / Doctor Who.
Pirate? P-irate? Pirate?
No, because so my school of thinking for the puns, it's not my response to them or what the episode is, it's things that are contained within the episode.
Okay.
So my alternate title, my favourite one is probably XI marks the spot, 11. XI marks the spot.
Right, okay.
Mermedic, that's the worst one.
That's my favourite.
That's your favourite one. Yo Ho Hoo.
Oh, maybe that's my favourite.
Dachshund. And just for the ending, Guardians of the Galaxy.
I'll see. I had one for this, which was Who's Gold.
You bastard! You came up with an alternate title
Just for this one. Just
Get
for
back
this
in
one.
your
That's
box.
Sam's thing, Eddie. You can't do that.
Just for this one, and it was Who's Gold.
We have a strict
Okay.
format. What do you think this is? Freeform conversation or something?
Yeah, George. Funny enough,
There are rules to this.
Yeah.
Thumbs down.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Right, the Doctor's wife.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is this the episode I'm expected to love?
Well, do you love it?
No.
Okay. I like the episodes that sort of treat the TARDIS like a character rather than just a vehicle.
Right.
And I think that's why a lot of people like this episode, because it's sort of the Doctor and the TARDIS are finally interacting. They're finally conversing.
Yeah, well, Saran Jones is pretty good.
Yeah.
But the implication of an intimate relationship with the TARDIS brings to mind that documentary of men wanking over their cars. Do you remember that?
Right. I mean, there's always been a sort of like
he calls the TARDIS sexy before this episode.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but that's I always like imagine. I know it's like it's an organism, but I always sort of interpreted that as the same way the guys call their cars sexy or refer to vehicles as she. You know, isn't she sexy? Not like an actual this is sexual attraction.
I mean, as Pond suggests, he must have wished really hard.
Yeah.
Indeed. Why is it called the Doctor's wife?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a bit shit.
They blue ball you a lot with titles on Doctor Who.
Yeah.
It's a lie. It's not even like a tease. It's just a lie.
Is it? Well, I was going to say, is it sort of like, oh, it's the closest thing the Doctor has to a wife, but spoiler alert, by the end of the season, he has a wife.
Yeah, an actual wife. Yeah. This is a Neil Gaiman episode, isn't it?
It is.
I like Neil Gaiman.
Yes.
I didn't like this particularly.
Okay.
This is the first one I give a thumbs up to.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, I do know this one's well regarded.
Yes.
I think it won the Hugo.
It
right?
did win the Hugo Award.
So yeah.
Oh. Another point I wanted to bring up very briefly. During our discussion of Turn Left back in Series 4, you asked me whether the TARDIS takes the Doctor where he needs to go, or whether the Doctor just gets lucky and he just sort of turns up by coincidence.
Yeah.
This episode, I suppose, directly answers that question for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. It does.
I suppose it wasn't really anything that...
No.
It wouldn't have
really
been
matter.
too bad to spoil it.
No.
But
No.
now you've got a direct answer.
Well, Doctor Who's spoiling itself now, isn't it?
Yeah.
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 Because
it's shit. That's all I got. My alternate title is Bringing Down the House. This is one as well where I thought, I can't be asked.
Yeah, that's all right.
It's can't be
That's
asked.
whatever.
Yeah.
There's a nude. Yay, I guess.
Oh, yes, there is.
A
Yeah.
new called Nephew.
Yeah, it's like, oh, yay, a nude.
Yeah, Ood are good.
Yeah.
That's probably it. And also you get like, oh, yeah, I've noticed that as well. There's a lot more like nostalgia. Like the show is starting to play to nostalgia a lot more. Like in this episode, we get the return of the David Tennant TARDIS control room.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's sort of like background nostalgia, ambient nostalgia, I suppose, where like
okay.
they're in that control room for a bit, so fans can go, oh my god, it's that control room.
Yeah.
And
see,
then you sort of like, there are sort of like unofficial Rose, Martha, and Donna cameos later on in the series. As
yeah, like this is the stuff like the reusing Tennant's TARDIS. That's the stuff that just goes over my head.
Okay.
I just don't even notice that sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah, thumb sideways. I didn't hate it. I thought it had points where it was okay.
I would say it's a thumbs up. I'm with you, Eddie.
Yeah, okay.
I'd give it a thumbs up. I think, given that this is Series 6 we're talking about, we have to take the good as it comes. Yeah. And I think broadly this is a good episode, so let's celebrate it while we can. Because we're about to dive into...
the Rebel Flash and the Almost People.
Yes.
The vistas aside, since the season premiere, it's quite a visually dull season, isn't it?
Yes. I don't know what the fuck happened.
Yeah.
Because that Day of the Moon and The Impossible Astronaut, those episodes do genuinely look very good. But then all of a sudden...
Yeah.
Like, surely Curse of the Black Spot should have looked good, you know?
Yeah.
We're a pirate ship.
Thinking about it now, this two-parter, it's visually reminiscent of Chernobyl. Now, Chernobyl is gorgeous.
Yes.
A gorgeous show. So I don't mean it looks bad, but it's got that grey, oppressive, something happened in the frame, for God's sake.
Yeah, it's very visually unstimulating.
Yeah, it is.
I think the color, it doesn't help that this is sort of like a factory set, like built in a castle.
Yeah.
Which again, that should be like a fantastic place to like build from visually. Like, oh, we've got this factory, but also this castle, so we can like merge the. But not really. It's just like it boils down to
it ends up
they'll have
looking
a wooden table in like a metal room, and
it ends up looking like a factory in a castle would look in real life.
Exactly. Yeah,
just that bland.
It's disappointing as well because like the color scheme as well. They seem to have color graded these episodes so there's one prevailing color. Like
that color is
the
dull.
Curse of the Black Spot is just blue all the way through. It's just this like grayish deep blue.
Yeah.
And this episode as well is very like there's a lot of like earthy browns and grays. And it's like ugh.
It's just horrible.
But that's it's disappointing because like all right, take Bloodborne for example. Bloodborne's a video game that came out in 2015. That has a predominantly grey color scheme. Pretty much every location in that game is mostly, if not entirely grey. But it looks stunning.
Right.
So you can do environments and episodes with limited color palettes that still look amazing.
Yes. Well, it's all about context, isn't it? I mean, like I said, Chernobyl and The Office, they can be kind of monochromatic because it helps with the presentation of that show and what it's trying to say and do.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you're dealing with a otherworldly sci-fi, can go anywhere, can do anything. It's just not good enough, really.
No.
These might be the two worst episodes so far.
Oh, worse than Curse of the Black Spot?
Yeah, for me they were. Yeah, because they were more boring than that. But partly because it was a two-parter, and this is the worst case of it got to the end and went, oh, not this.
Yeah.
Surely, usually,
why the fuck this?
Yeah, even if it's something I'm not particularly interested in, I can see, okay, there's still some story mileage that hasn't been kind of, exploited yet. In this, it was just, oh, this is one episode if ever I've seen one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Obviously, Voldemort comparisons abound.
I will say the flesh does offer up some creepy imagery. You know, like the Voldemort people are like, yeah, they're okay.
Yeah.
But when I'm talking about like when it's just a batch of flesh and you see the face like rising out of the flesh and it's sort of like, you can see like the veins that are sort of in like this white goop. That's creepy. That looks genuinely great. That's about it. That's the only like good looking thing.
This was the moment where I thought, oh, I'm out now then.
Yeah.
Like I'm out
Series 3 was so long ago now, wasn't it?
So long ago.
Yeah.
My alternate title is Doppelganger. That's all there is.
There's like
down.
Yeah, it's not a good. Nope. It's not good at all.
Nope.
The green screening they do at the beginning, so that there are two Matts missing the frame, is really bad.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of bad green screening this season.
Yeah, but that in particular, it's really ropey. Considering that they do the rest of it either through like doing reverse shots where like, oh, they're in the same location, but you only see one in the frame at any time, or there's like a moment where they're both like ducking behind like a console. So it's like camera trickery, basically, rather than having to superimpose them onto the same image. Like, that looks all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it's the two of them green screens together, it looks really, really bad.
Yep.
Also, I think I don't know what you think about the ending of The Almost People, where it's revealed that Amy has been a Flesh avatar this whole time.
I mean, I've like honestly no investment at this point.
Yeah, I think that ending is too good for the episode because I think I don't know if I've alluded to it before, or I might have alluded to it before and then cut it from a discussion. But this episode, I think it's genuinely liked, not loved, but it's liked by people purely because of its ending.
Yeah, okay.
It's the only good bit of it.
Yeah, it's the only good bit, and you've got to sit through like 40 minutes of an episode to get to it, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't deserve that ending, and it's really disappointing. And yeah, I hate these episodes. They were so like, I struggled with these episodes.
Yep.
So they're a enthusiastic thumbs down from me.
Right, A Good Man Goes to War.
Yes.
What the fuck is this show now? I don't know what it's trying to be anymore. It's like it's more Star Wars for one.
Okay.
There are even like lightsabers in the episode, basically.
Yeah, the headless monks and the lightning swords.
It's like this episode and the last two. It's like the final season of Game of Thrones. Final seasons, actually, which is turn the fucking lights on.
Yeah.
Just turn the lights. I want to see what's happening.
Well, I mean, this episode was very clearly they clearly had no sets built for this episode. They just filmed in the BBC studio.
Yeah.
So they probably had to turn all the lights down just so you couldn't see like Studio A written on the wall in like big letters or something.
Is Rory dressed up as a centurion for the fuck of it? Is it like his Heisenberg hat?
Sure.
Is that what it is now?
Yeah.
It's Doctor thought it would be funny.
Okay. He can't do badass at all.
No.
Arthur Darvill. He just can't do it.
We do not need him in the Centurion outfit. It is really annoying. I absolutely hate it.
Would you like me to repeat the question? Like,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
No.
It's shit, but that's, I don't know, it kind of works.
No.
Oh no! That's what that note is referring to. He can't do it. Arthur Darvill can't.
No,
do
he
that.
can't do it.
Yeah.
But he can't do it. He so can't do it that it almost works.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, no, I think we disagree on that one.
Not in the slightest.
I knew River Song was Amy's daughter. Not like I'm not going to pretend that I knew the whole time that no. But as soon as it was Melody, I was like, okay, River Song, obviously.
Yeah.
Is the worst twist going.
I felt nothing when that was revealed.
Why?
Why is it the worst twist going?
No. Why is she?
Why have they done that?
bother making her Amy and Rory's daughter?
Because
because it's a
Stephen
time travel
Moffat-
show and that's clever.
Yeah, Stephen Moffat thought this was a brilliant thing.
But
surely, like, the mystery of who-
It's Moffat's instinct going too far.
Yeah, but the mystery of who River Song is, and the mystery that we've been setting up, is her relationship to the Doctor, right? And since the season ends with her marrying the Doctor, surely that is the resolution to the mystery.
Yep.
The fact that Amy and Rory are her parents,
Yeah.
that's just extra detail. It doesn't mean anything.
It's like a supplemental twist, isn't it?
Also, watching her
it's an
say
additional
mum
twist.
and dad to those two is just horrific. I felt it was really badly acted because I think even they were stood there going, "What on earth are we doing?"
Yeah, I liked Alex Kingston before this in Doctor Who. I liked her in series 4, was it?
I liked her in 4 and 5.
Yeah, she's pretty good at 5 as well. I don't know what happened.
They let Stephen Moffat write more episodes.
Well, this
when
thing, he has a good instinct, but when he's the guy crafting the entire season, he goes too far with it.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can we really play with time and you have characters I get it.
One of the executive producers is his wife.
Yes, Sue Virtue.
So there is no mediation happening.
Nope.
Whatever Stephen Moffat wants to happen, happens.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the critical errors of him as showrunner, is no one's mediating his behaviours.
Nope.
Yeah. Thumbs down.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, thumbs down. My alternate titles are Pond Spawn and Revelation.
Yeah, all right. There is, okay, I wouldn't have called this episode a thumbs down. There is an element to this episode I like, and that's that it's sort of I know you've previously said that you don't like it when Doctor Who gets serious, Sam. So you probably didn't like it. But they sort of play to the darkness of Matt Smith's Doctor a little bit more. Like that whole scene where he's like, tell your men to withdraw. No, actually, tell your men to run away. I want you to be known as Colonel Runaway. I want to ruin your reputation, Yeah. And that whole speech about, like, good men don't need rules. Today's not the day to find out why I have so many. It's making the Doctor feel like more of a not a villain, but it's sort of showing the side of the Doctor that his enemies see.
It's not so much that I don't like it when Doctor Who gets serious. It's not that. It's when they try to cast the Doctor in a badass light. So like those lines, you're meant to think, oh my god, that's so cool. What a cool badass line.
Right.
Like a Heisenberg line. I am the one who knocks. It's that sort of line. When it does that, I tend to roll my eyes because I think this is not the place to do that.
Okay.
See, I have a thing with this episode of it talks about how this will be the furthest the Doctor ever falls. A, no it's not, and B, it's like they forgot he killed all of his own people.
Yeah, mass genocide.
Mass genocide or getting a bit angry because they took your mate's baby. No.
Yeah.
No, it's terrible.
Demons Run. When Vastra says to the Doctor, Demons Run his hours without a single drop of blood spilt. Like, soldiers have, like, killed each other in friendly fire prior to this moment.
Yeah.
People are dead on Demons Run, Also, there's a line from the episode that I won't say anything else. I just want to say the line to you.
Yeah.
Oh dear God, that's the attack prayer.
Yeah.
I laughed when I completely forgot that line, but because it's Dorian as well, so it's this big fat blue guy, and you hear like this monk chanting off in the background. He's like, "Oh dear God, that's the attack prayer."
Yeah, he reminds me of Varys from Game of Thrones. He's got that vibe about him. Right, Let's kill Hitler.
Yeah. Bear in mind, Sam, we had to wait months for this episode.
Right.
Good Man Goes to War sort of acted as like a mid-season finale, and there was a break afterwards. So whatever you feel about this episode...
Imagine the disappointment when it came back.
Yeah, imagine the fact that we had to fucking wait for this to come out.
I really like this episode.
Oh, you didn't. Shut up.
No, I don't.
It's not even funny at this point, Sam.
I like the montage of the friend emerging from confinement as, school and then prison. I like that.
Yes.
I like that little thing.
But there's this character that we've never met before.
No, I know.
An important part of Amy and Rory's life, and she's called Mel's. I wonder where this is going.
I know. But also, so my first instinct was, this is a bit Nikki and Paolo / Dawn Summers.
Okay.
Characters that come into dramas that apparently have a significance that would have been otherwise flagged. So basically in Buffy, they bring her younger sister in like season 4 or 5.
Okay.
And it's like she's been there the whole time.
Yeah.
Living with her. But then it becomes a plot point and twist that that's not actually the case. And they do it well in Buffy. So as soon as this friend came into it, I was like, well, I know who that is.
Yep.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
That was no twist. She never annoyed me before, River, but she annoys me now.
She's terrible in this episode.
Yeah.
She's really, really... And I don't know whether they're trying to do like the quirky... eccentric, like, oh, I'm post-regeneration, everything is happening at once for me, sort of like they did in the 11th Hour with Matt Smith. But either Alex Kingston can't pull it off, or they have led her astray through the direction.
I think it's
because she's really intolerable.
It's just written really badly.
I think it's the writing. Yeah.
Like the entire season is written basically really badly.
Yeah, all right, Eddie. Okay.
The Doctor's daughter, the Doctor's wife, let's kill Hitler. They're just liars. They're just lying to you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yes,
they do seem very eager to get Hitler out of the episode as soon as possible, don't they?
Oh, yeah. But it's also just like the way he's depicted and the way they approach him. I get it. Like, what can they really do?
Yeah.
But if they were really like Rory and Amy more than the Doctor, because I guess for the Doctor, Hitler is terrible, but he's probably not even in top 10 of worst homicidal maniacs ever.
Probably not.
Like in the grand scale of the cosmos.
Yeah.
But for Amy and, I don't know, do you ever get this? When you see a picture of Hitler, you get a bit unsettled.
Yeah.
If he's like looking into camera, I get a bit like, I don't like that.
Yeah, not unsettled, but I do like, oh, that's Hitler. I notice it, You kind of stop for a moment. You're like, oh, that's Hitler.
Yeah, if he's like looking into the lens, I get a bit unnerved. Like I'm looking into eyes of pure evil sort of thing.
I see. Okay.
And that's not like an affectation. I genuinely mean that. I get, if there's a picture of a historical horror and they're making eye contact with the camera, I get a little bit unsettled.
Yeah.
And I just feel like Rory and Amy would be a little bit more unnerved if they were actually with Hitler rather than making, okay, this is Hitler. God, mate, this is deeply uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm going to put Hitler in the cupboard now. Like, no, shut up.
No, not cool, not kosher.
Yeah.
So my alternate titles, oh god, this is so bad. Untermenschen, which that was the word they used for like the under people.
Yeah,
that's what it works in this because they've got the people inside the body, right? So like the under people, the Untermenschen. Sonderkommando, and one of them is Alles Kopf, but I have no idea what that means or why I wrote it.
Okay.
So let me just find out what Alles Kopf means.
Well, while you do that, I'll sort of finish off going through all of my notes as well.
Yeah, okay.
I feel like the point of this episode, if this episode does indeed have a point, is it's supposed to be an origin story for River Song, right?
Yeah, yes.
Because we've introduced the idea that this is Melody Pond. In this episode, she is still Melody Pond. She hasn't adopted the mantra and the name River Song yet.
Yeah.
Of River Song. Fucking just bear with me, audience. So yeah, like I can sort of understand that. Like the thrust of the episode is the Doctor has to sort of establish enough of a rapport with Melody that she would become River Song.
Yeah.
But bear in mind, the Doctor has to override a lifetime of brainwashing. And he does it in about like 15 minutes or however long the episode goes on for after she comes into it. I feel like it should be, make the whole episode about an origin story for River Song. Don't waste like the beginning of the episode being like, oh, it's this character called Mel's you don't know.
Don't fall into
do a bit of comedy with Hitler.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Alles Kopf is the German title for Inside Out.
Oh, okay. All right.
So that's what that was.
All right. It bothers me a lot, and this is sort of a personal thing. I don't know if this is something either of you share, but it bothers me when shows use their own promotional material in the show.
What do you mean? Give me an example.
I mentioned earlier that Rose, Martha, and Donna are alluded to in this episode.
Yeah.
And it's all very clearly the promotional stills that the show used.
Yes, I know what you mean. 100%.
That really bothers me.
100%.
It was the same in Far From Home, when there's that mural of Iron Man at the beginning of the film, and Spider-Man is at the beginning of the trailer as well.
Yeah.
Where you see like the picture of Iron Man like painted on the wall and Spider-Man's looking at it. That's the cover art for the 2008 Iron Man video game.
Yes, yeah.
So it completely shatters my immersion.
Also, we've talked about it before, I'm sure, on the podcast. It's in the similar camp as my niggle with in-world news shows using footage from the film.
Yes, it's very much the same principle. Yeah. I think that's basically it. Amy named Mel's... No, Amy named Melody after Mel's, but Mel's is Melody.
Time!
Yeah, what came first?
I don't know.
I couldn't.
The chicken or the
I couldn't
the
care less. Is the honest answer.
That's the problem though. At this point, is I don't care. I don't care less about plot holes and
Yeah.
That said, I give it a thumb sideways.
How dare you?
Just for wrapping up the river thing.
Okay.
But it wraps it up badly.
I know that. I know.
But it's done.
But
is
at least
that the
it's
idea?
done. But it's done.
Yeah. Okay.
So there was that. But yeah, obviously it's a
It's
thumbs
not
down.
done. She's in another episode.
I know, but at the time I didn't know that. Well, I knew she'd be in another episode, but I thought they were done with all that nonsense.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Dapper Doctor and the Sonic Cane. The fuck was that all about?
No.
He has like a Sonic Cane in this episode, and it like never comes back.
No. Don't care. Again, don't care.
I don't know, mate. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to summon any righteous fury because how can you?
Was that a pun?
On
Did you say righteous fury?
righteous fury, yeah.
I thought you said Reichous fury.
No, I didn't.
I thought you were doing a pun.
I can summon Reichous fury. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Right, we done with that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Night Terrors. I bet you love this one, didn't you, Eddie?
I did.
Fucking Doll's House.
Dolls. That was my first note. Oh, Eddie's gonna love this one.
I hate the look of it.
Yeah.
I do hate the look of it, but I do genuinely
No, that's
like
the thing.
episode.
Like,
I also genuinely like the episode.
yeah, Let's Kill Hitler, for all of its flaws, it looked okay. The cinematography started to go back up again in quality.
Yeah.
This episode genuinely looks great. I love the look of this episode.
Yeah.
There's just something about... I don't know how they did it. I don't know whether it was just the way everything was framed, or whether they just found a good location, or whether...
they just sacked the previous guy.
Maybe they
Yeah,
just sacked the
DP.
previous guy, yeah. But considering this is like on a filthy, grimy council estate, and considering that most of the episode has like a green tint to it, this looks gorgeous.
Well, it's sort of to what I alluded earlier about occasionally I resent the more provincial episodes, but then something like this comes along and it was really welcome.
Yep.
Yeah. It just shows like the merits of hiring a talented cinematographer instead of just using an expensive camera.
Yeah. Well,
Because
we
that location-
talked before about the highest thing to which a cinematographer can aspire is making somewhere bleak look beautiful.
Yes.
And again, it's easy to make the Rio Bravo and the Grand Canyon look amazing because they look amazing.
Yeah.
Phone footage would look amazing on,
Yeah.
But no. So it's the mark of a great DP that this looks as good as it does.
Yeah.
Yes. Because this location shouldn't offer any potential cinematography-wise, but it looks stunning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like Daniel Mays in this.
Yeah, I like Daniel Mays. I like him quite generally.
Yes.
Okay, I do really like this episode, but the first point is a criticism. There really are no rules in Doctor Who, are there?
No.
This idea, a child's pleas carrying across the universe. There's a lot of poetic logic in Doctor Who.
Yes.
Things that sound good, but then they translate as actual physical laws.
Well, is that... I've sort of mentioned before that Stephen Moffat's Doctor Who is a fairy tale. I think that's the philosophy he had going into it.
Right.
And that's the philosophy that's sort of motivating a lot of the writing. And that does feel very fairy tale, I guess.
Yeah.
That a
Yeah.
child is scared and the Doctor hears that cry in it,
Yeah.
So yeah, it depends. Like, yes, the show should absolutely operate on some logical plane. It should have a consistent logic to it. But also, if we are sort of making it a fairy tale, then there should be some allowance for, I guess I can suspend my disbelief a little bit here.
Oh yeah, it's not like a major gripe, but it is okay, it's operating on poetic logic. You don't really... That doesn't have much of a place in science fiction, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Calling a bulldog Bernard is perverse.
Explain.
Because there are St. Bernards. You can't call a bulldog Bernard. They're calling a chihuahua, come here, poodle. No, you can't. You can't call a bulldog Bernard. I'm sorry. Even if it looks like a Bernard.
It does look like a Bernard, though.
It does. It reminded me of that Dylan Moran bit about a Saint Bernard, because it does
I
actually.
already know what you're on about.
As long as the dog, as far as the dog is concerned, he is dying. So just watching him descend.
Yeah, sink into the floor. Yeah.
A Saint Bernard swirling a glass of brandy as it watches you die.
Yeah.
It's a nice idea. A kid's fear of rejection, like that being the bedrock of the horror.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's really good. I like that. The ending reminds me of the episode of Breaking Bad 51, which is an episode totally about something else, but whose ending reminds you of what's coming. Because at the end of this episode, you get the sing-song culminating
the
in
kind of the
Doctor's
nursery
gonna
rhyme,
die.
yeah.
I like that a lot. I like it reminding you of the arc of the season.
Mm-hmm.
It's more poetry than narrative. Because is that the actual song? Or is that like the show's poetic imposition on it of even further Doctor?
Yeah,
is that the song? Okay,
I think that's sort of like a Blink ending where it's almost non-diegetic,
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's all I got, really. I really liked it.
It's my favourite episode of the series.
Oh,
Me
really?
too. Me too.
Oh, okay, interesting. I like it a lot. It's not my favorite, but I do like this episode. I'm glad that they specifically say that around about puberty, George is going to become a problem again. Because, yes, of course, yeah, he is. He's going to be a fucking nightmare.
Yeah. My alternate titles, The Dolly Problem, and my favourite one, Spurious George.
Fair.
Okay.
So that's where I'd
I
go.
like that.
Thumbs up?
Yep.
Okay.
Thumbs up.
The Girl Who Waited.
Yes. This is another stunning looking episode because it's just medical white for like most of the scenery.
That's interesting, because I've got exactly the opposite opinion.
Oh, really?
I think it feels really cheap.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, this is clearly a
cost-cutting episode.
Yeah, it's sort of like this season's equivalent of Midnight, I guess, where it's sort of like, okay, we need
a bottle sort of thing.
Yeah, almost like a bottle episode. But I think that's one of the things that really works about it is there's no faff, there's no...
Yeah, there's no faff, I'll give you that. It's quite a contrivance to make it a Dr. Light episode, though.
I think it's okay.
It affects things with two hearts. Like, that's a bit...
Oh, also, fucking planet-wide quarantine.
Yeah, that too. Yeah,
Fucking throwing that out there.
Okay, I know we've said the TARDIS takes him where he needs to go and all that.
Yeah.
But the Doctor should not have a license to pilot the TARDIS. He's just terrible. Because, like...
He doesn't really, he stole it.
You know what I mean? Like, license in a more abstract sense.
Yeah.
He went to go get Amy again. What was it, 12 years, however long it was?
Something like that.
Yeah. In this one, they're trying to get to the time stream where their Amy is, and they end up with one that's 26 years older or whatever.
Yeah.
36. Is it 36? Yeah, it's 36.
I think she's in her 50s when they find her again.
It's 36, I think.
Okay.
It's like, okay, I get it, but there's actually a cost to getting the time wrong. Like, people lose their lives while they're waiting for you to come. You get someone more qualified to drive it because he can't drive to save his fucking life, the Doctor.
Hang on. Explain to me again what your criticism is here.
Well, they're aiming to go to the time stream where their Amy is, aren't they?
Yes.
But they end up going to one where it's 36 years later, and she's much more ragged and rugged.
Okay.
And then that reminded me of, like, in the 11th hour, where he goes back to get her, but he's miscalculated.
Yes.
And it's actually 12 years. It's like, that might be a jape and a joke for the Doctor, but there's, like, a real human consequence to him slightly mixing up.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And the episode does sort of explore that.
Yeah.
Because when they do re-encounter that Amy, she's lost all faith in the Doctor. Like, she hates him now because he left her behind.
Is this your favourite of the series?
Concerned. I think it is.
Okay, I don't like it.
No, neither do I.
I don't like it.
I am rather upset, I'll be honest with you.
I don't like it. I think the prosthetics are quite bad. She doesn't look older.
Oh, I don't think they look too... I thought they were very well judged.
No.
Taking the actual quality of the prosthetics out of the equation now. Like, yeah, she's probably like in her 40s or her 50s. So they haven't gone for like old age makeup.
No,
she looks
in that sense, okay, but she looks like she's kind of the same age that's just had a harder life.
Well, yeah.
That's what she looks like. She doesn't act older either. Or not old enough to me.
See, I had this
for it to
thing
feel
of,
like...
I felt that the entire premise of the episode could have been stopped in about a millisecond because there's no way in hell, after everything they've been through, that Rory would walk through the same door with the Doctor without Amy by his side. So I reckon it is more believable that the two of them would have gone through the door and the Doctor would have had to have found the both of them than having to find
the problem
Amy.
is, though, this episode is sort of about reinforcing the relationship between Rory and Amy. Like, it's directly exploring how they feel about each other, you know? And that's kind of what saves the day. is Amy's love for Rory. That's how they're able to pull the younger Amy out of her own time stream.
Did we need that again?
But also, you can't operate on a principle of the characters make decisions they otherwise wouldn't just because it's convenient for our theme.
Or what do they make? What decisions?
I'm just supporting Eddie's point there about he feels like the Doctor would go through. Rory would go through with Amy rather than her going by herself.
No, I wouldn't agree with that.
Okay, but
I don't feel like that's a decision the character makes. It's like, oh, Rory would never do that. No, Amy's just going back to get her phone. Like,
I can't remember that. That's just me making a broader point about that idea of like you can't make a smart character dumb just when it suits you. But yeah, that's not really in relation to this episode.
I understand your criticism, Eddie, about like, do they need to do another episode where it's sort of reinforcing the relationship between Amy and Rory again? I understand that. I do feel like this is one of the better examples of it being done, though.
Yeah, I just at this point, like, we've gone through the whole waiting 2,000 years.
Yeah.
Did we really need to know that she bloody loves him? Like, obviously, at this point.
Yeah, we do get the point.
So why do I need to know again?
Well, no, because Rory waited 2,000 years for Amy. I think it's more about showing that Amy loves Rory than Rory loves Amy. We know Rory loves Amy. That's obvious.
The whole thing of the Dream Lord, where she literally killed herself because she didn't want a world without him.
Yeah.
Did we need it again? No.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fair. It's fair that it feels like it's treading old ground in that respect. But as I say, I think this is a better exploration of that idea. There's a sentiment in this episode that's sort of expressed that I actually really, really like. And that is that the two Amys are sort of having a conversation with each other. And they sort of say that, like, it's something like Amy says, like, have you ever met someone who's, like, gorgeous, but then you get to know them and they're actually, like, a bit dull, or there's not much depth to them, or, you know, they're good for a laugh, but they're not someone you'd want to spend the rest of your life with. And then you meet someone, you think, like, yeah, they're okay. And then you get to know them, and their personality just becomes them. Like, they become more attractive because of who they are as opposed to how they look. And then they both say, Rory is the most beautiful man I've ever met. Yeah. I really, really like that.
Well, okay. I mean, as a sentiment, I agree with it. Yeah. But it doesn't feel like a particularly interesting or unique or profound thing to say.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's because I think this was probably the first instance where that sentiment had been expressed to me.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know whether it's just because that's the first place I heard it expressed and that's something that really resonated with me, or whether it's just because I feel that the sentiment itself is well expressed, if not profound.
It's fair enough.
But yeah, and I maintain the fact that I think this is a really good looking episode. I think the stark white that sort of is around most of the episode looks really, really good. I think the cinematography is really good as well. Like when the two Amys are sort of having a conversation through the looking glass and they're sort of almost superimposed on each other. I don't know. I just think this episode has a really good look to it.
I mean, you know? Like I said, I was offended by the blandness of it, and it felt cheap. And then I did look up afterwards and found out that it was an episode to cut costs.
Yeah.
And that made sense to me.
Yeah. But that's usually when Doctor Who is operating at its strongest, though. Blink, Midnight. These are all tiny episodes.
Not in this case for me.
No.
Okay.
Maybe it's because I don't care about the characters, but the sentimentality irritated me. Rory sobbing when she can't come through the door, all that. I just had no time for it.
Okay.
And that's not because I'm a hardened soul, because I cry probably more than anybody I know at films and television. I'm really easy to make cry.
Yeah.
I didn't in this.
Okay. I also kind of like that the Doctor's a bit of a bastard at the end of the episode. Like, he promises old Amy a place in the TARDIS and then just shuts her out. Yeah. And then he says to Rory, like, oh, fine, you have to pick which wife you want.
Yeah, that's okay.
I actually think that would have been a nice, if they'd done a little bit of work on this episode, I think this would have been a nice final episode for Amy and Rory. Amy sort of, a similar thing happens where the Doctor leaves Amy behind, or she thinks that he leaves her behind, and she completely loses her faith in the Doctor, and Rory has to sort of ultimately choose which wife do I want, and he decides, do you know what? Amy is Amy. I'm going to stay with this older Amy, and we're going to live the rest of our natural lives together.
Right.
Not exactly like that, but yeah, I think if you did a little bit of work on this episode, this would have been a really, really nice, because they go out together, they go out on their terms, you know? And also, it's a nice connection that when she first travels with the Doctor, Amy's like, oh, I've grown up now. You know, the little girl who waited for you, I've grown up. And the Doctor goes, well, I'll soon fix that. So it's nice that Amy left the show because she outgrew the Doctor, you know?
Yeah.
I think that would have been a nice way to...
I think because he has two companions that are married now, I think the writers feel an obligation to do stories like that, where it's about the relationship, you know, which is completely understandable. The samurai sword in slow motion, that's a bit...
Yeah, well, you know, it's not perfect. It has its problems.
Yeah.
No, I would broadly like recommend this episode. I do like Night Terrors. I do think that is, you know, that looks great and everything. But yeah, I would say for me this is the best episode of the series.
That's interesting because my penultimate note is I'm not honouring this episode by thinking too long about a pun.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, fuck. Okay.
I don't know. For whatever reason, it didn't click with me, this one.
Okay.
I don't hate it. I think fatigue is setting in. Was setting in at this point.
Yes.
That's partly to blame.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my alternate titles. This is quite difficult, this one.
Okay.
None of them are very flattering. You got Dower/Sour of Scotland.
Right.
Celtic Cross. Despondent. And then my favourite ones, Scotty Dog.
Right.
And Spoiled Ginger. That's my favourite one.
I'm disappointed in you, Sam.
Why?
An apple aperture a day, surely.
But that doesn't make any sense.
Well, no, because apple aperture is the name of the planet that they're on.
Yeah.
And that old saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. And the doctor doesn't participate in... He doesn't go into apple aperture.
Oh, keeps the doctor away. Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Nah.
I'm disappointed that you didn't come up with that, Sam. You're better than this.
I think when I had Spoiled Ginger, I was like, oh, I like that. So I stuck to the theme of making fun of Amy being ugly as an old woman.
Right, okay.
Well, thumbs down.
Yeah.
I completely disagree.
Okay.
Wholeheartedly. As I say, there's so little good in Series 6, we should celebrate the good when it comes.
We just disagree on the good, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you're wrong, but okay.
No. The God Complex.
Another really good looking episode. But I think that's helped by its location. Because it feels almost The Shining, doesn't it? It feels kind
It's
of
Kubrickian! Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start with the bad stuff. Don't bring the angels in for a cameo. Just don't do that.
Nope.
They're better than that. That might be the only bad thing I've got to say about it. No, and there's one little detail. Toward the end of the episode, Amy asks, is it a Minotaur? Is it an alien? Is it an alien Minotaur? Oh, that's not the question I thought I'd be asking this morning. Why not? That's quite...
if you're traveling with the doctor,
that's
be
quite
prepared
mundane.
to ask anything.
In the grand scheme of things, that's quite an everyday question. Is that
it's got a
alien
bland
Minotaur?
question. Yeah.
It took me a while to realise it was David Williams.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, it did. I don't know what it was. He pulled a face. I was like, oh, that's David Williams.
Yeah.
I really liked the idea of a submissive species.
Yeah, that's fun. That's a fun idea.
But I think they missed a trick by not giving him a French accent. Because come on, that's what it is.
Yeah, okay. Maybe.
I really liked the mantra is glory to insert name here. I really liked that. Yeah. I think that's great. That's it. I really liked it. I thought it was good.
I'm a big fan. And the thing is because you had the bit with the clown in the room.
Yeah.
And when we were watching that, I instantly thought of you and Pennywise, and that would be your room.
Well, I saw Pennywise when I was tripping on acid once. So
there was a hell of a way to confront him, isn't it?
It was. Well, but basically, I was so anxious that in my acid state, I was going to encounter an evil clown, or Pennywise in particular. I was so worried it was going to happen that I went to the bathroom on my own, obviously. And then when I was there, I just thought, well, now would be the time that he would show himself because you're on your own. And this is when it would be most terrifying. And I thought so hard about that happening that it just happened. Yeah. I saw him and we just nodded at each other and I left the bathroom. That was that. Yeah.
I found that funny though with the clown. Like they walk into the room and the clown isn't there for either of them. Because the premise of the episode is obviously this hotel is full of rooms, and in the rooms are the biggest fear of the people who get sent there.
It's Orwellian. It's room 101 basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the clown isn't for Amy or the woman who goes in there. Yeah. So they're just like, is he for you? No, he's not. And then they just stand by the door. So it's like there's this sad clown in the room that's just like he can't scare them, so he's just sitting there like looking pathetic.
Just miserable, yeah.
Yeah, this is funny.
Right, the alternate titles are The Shinator, Faith Mealing, Labyrinthe, Check Out, that's the obvious one.
Yeah.
Guest of Faith, Slake and Sea, my favourite one, Doom Service.
Okay.
Yeah.
I prefer the God Complex. honestly.
These aren't meant to be better than the title.
No, I know they're not. I know they're not. But
Yes.
no, I think the God Complex is just a good title.
It's
for this
okay.
episode.
Yeah, I think it's a good title in and of itself. It could have been used to better use in a different episode, I think.
Yeah, I feel like they do stretch it a little bit. With like, oh, Doctor, you've got a God complex. It's like, you're stretching it a little bit.
Well, it's just because it's the complex of a god, isn't it?
Well, no, because I think it's supposed to be double meaning, isn't it?
It's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be that it's the complex of a god, and also the Doctor has a God complex.
Yeah.
Because he tells Amy and Rory, you're not going to travel with me anymore because it's too dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Like that realization that he does have a God complex and that his misadventures will get Amy and Rory killed is what sort of motivates him to buy them a house and a car and say like, right, there you go and live a domestic life without me.
Yeah.
This doesn't feel like the episode that would have warranted that sort of reaction from the Doctor.
No, yeah, it does feel like quite an everyday episode.
I suppose that's my one major gripe with it. There are episodes you've already done that would have been better candidates for this is too dangerous, Amy and Rory, you have to stay home now. But no, yeah, broadly like the episode.
It's my third and final thumbs up of the series.
It's also a thumbs up from me.
Okay. Yeah, thumbs up from me as well.
Okay, closing time.
Yep.
Amy's a model. What's that about?
Yep.
Yeah, I was fucking quick, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, is there
I don't know
any suggestion that she was ever in that sphere at all?
Nope.
No. Well, she was a kissogram. That's the last job she had, right?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I guess, what the hell kind of job can you get if your main job was a kissogram?
Yeah, it feels weird to leapfrog to model, though, for like...
But this is the thing, right? Between the God Complex and closing time, the Doctor has been on his own for 200 years, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how long it's been for Amy and Rory, but it couldn't have been more than a couple of months, surely.
Like a year at most.
Is that enough time for her to become a model that's so famous that her picture is like in stores and she's getting autographs from people?
I am not familiar with the vagaries of the modelling world, but it does feel like it would take you more than a year to A, be in such a prestigious position that you become the face of a prominent brand.
Yeah.
Or B, that you're such a famous model that children know who you are. Because this isn't like you see models for perfume and stuff all the time. You don't know who the fuck they are. You wouldn't recognize them if you saw them in the street. Like, we could name how many models we know probably on one hand, right?
If that.
Count on one hand. So,
I say,
yeah.
no.
I don't know what the hell is going
it's
on.
2 years, not 1 year.
It's 2 years.
Yeah.
Right.
So at the start,
Still.
at the start of the series, they haven't seen him in 2 years, and this is supposed to be the day before he goes to Lake Utah, so it's 2 years.
Well, thank you, Doctor Who, for making that really fucking clear to me.
Yeah, that wasn't clear. Because he's doing a victory lap again, isn't he? He's seeing all his old friends before
Yeah.
And apparently Craig is one of his friends.
Apparently.
Yeah.
I guess Corden was available.
Corden was available, and apparently the first one was the lodger was quite popular. So
was it?
I don't understand that at all.
They said it was popular enough. That's why they brought him back.
Okay.
Maybe this was when did Gavin and Stacey stop airing?
2010 originally. Or 9,
so it would have been the final year of Gavin and Stacey.
2009,
that
I think.
episode
Yeah, it would have been
came
just after Gavin and Stacey.
Yeah, so maybe people were like
pre the jump to America.
Yeah, that as well.
Just before. Yeah.
But like, oh, we need more Corden. Give us more Corden. And they're like, all right, we'll do another episode with James Corden, I guess.
Well, the episode's a farce, basically, isn't it?
Yep.
Yes.
Two men, well, one man, one Time Lord, and a baby, struggling to look after the baby. It's bad.
Yep.
It's a bad episode. I thought if they kill the baby, that adds some spice to it.
It wastes the Cybermen yet again.
Yeah, still not taken with a Cyberman.
Well, yeah, this wasn't the episode that was going to change your mind about the Cybermen.
But you say that every time they come into an episode. So what will be the episode that will endear me to the Cybermen?
No, I haven't said that about every episode, surely.
Certainly the last one.
I think my favourite Cyberman episode is with Peter Capaldi. So
right.
Oh, I know the one you're on about. Yeah, we got a while before we get to that.
Oh yeah, a long while.
But like the first Cyberman episode, the two-parter in the parallel universe. I know you didn't like that episode, Sam, but that's like a good Cyberman story.
Right.
That is just a case of you're not gelling with the Cybermen, as opposed to the Cybermen are like it's actively bad.
You can't say that. You can't say the problem with the Cybermen is me.
Sam's the problem with the Cybermen.
Well, no, it is you. No, the Cybermen were in a good episode and you didn't like it.
It's subjective. You can't. The Cybermen aren't good or bad. The Cybermen just are. Whether they're good or bad is your opinion.
Right,
My opinion is they're bad. Your opinion is they're good.
Okay. Well, I didn't say that.
You can't say they're good. The episodes that they first featured in were good, and therefore because you didn't think they were good, you're the problem.
No. My point was this is a bad Cyberman episode. So
Yes.
it's perfectly reasonable that you would not like the Cybermen based on this episode.
Yeah, but even saying that, that's...
No.
No,
The Rise of Cybermen.
that's an opinion that you just voiced. This is a bad Cyberman episode. By your metric. By other people's metric, this is a good Cyberman episode.
Eddie, is it a bad Cyberman episode?
Yes.
Eddie's not everyone else, is he?
No, but that's two opinions that say the same thing. You know what an objective opinion is, Sam? It's enough subjective opinion.
There's no such thing as an objective opinion, you fucking
exactly.
idiot. So what are you talking about?
We have is just a lot of subjective opinions that line up.
Yeah, but you can't say this is a bad Cyberman episode, and then when I bring up other Cyberman episodes, you go, oh no, that one was good, but you just didn't like it, so the problem is you.
No, my point was, Rise of the Cybermen and Age of Steel is a good Cyberman episode. It's a good Cyberman story.
By what standard?
By my standard, and by Eddie's standards as well, maybe? I can't remember, Eddie.
In the opinion of you two...
But
by the modern
standard, that is considered a good one. But
guys,
I'm also taking the broad opinion of the show into account, like people's broad opinion of the show.
Even if the entire fan base and everyone who watched it thought that it was a good Cyberman episode, that does not make it a good Cyberman episode.
My point is,
I
think if you ask most people,
I don't care.
Let me finish.
I don't care if I ask.
If you ask most people, if Closing Time is a good depiction of the Cybermen, you know, would you like the Cybermen based on their appearance in Closing Time? I think most people would say no.
Not disputing.
If you ask the same thing about Rise of Cybermen, Age of Steel, people would say yes, but you didn't like the Cybermen.
Yes.
So I am simply saying that clearly, for whatever reason, the Cybermen are not gelling with you because you've seen them, maybe not at their best, but you've seen them in a good light, and it just didn't connect with you.
Right. Okay. We agreed on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's the only point I was making.
Right. Okay.
But you've seen the Cybermen in a somewhat positive light and you don't like them. So clearly you're not you like the Daleks, you like the Weeping Angels.
Okay. Yeah.
You don't like the Cybermen. That's just how it is.
Yes. That's right.
There we go.
Right. Okay.
But they are shit in this episode. Mainly because they have decided, for whatever reason, that James Corden is a worthy leader.
Yeah.
So dare I say they were doomed to fail from the start if they thought that James Corden would lead them into a new age.
What is the thinking behind making him their leader?
He's smart.
But it's a very precise thing, right?
He's smart.
He finds their base, therefore he's smart, therefore he can be leader.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, he tries to trick them into thinking that a price scanner is a gun.
Yeah.
And the Cybermen go, you are intelligent, you will lead us into a new age of cyber.
And then a baby cries and he's no longer a Cyberman, even though he's partially converted.
Yeah, I mean, you talked in Night Terror, Sam, about the show operating on poetic logic.
Yeah.
Like, clearly this episode is saying that, like, oh, love conquers all, right? That old
sentimental
adage.
crap, yeah.
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 But it really doesn't work here.
No.
It's pretty... It doesn't help that the Cybermen specifically say all emotions have been deleted. Mm-hmm. And then, immediately after that, Craig's love for his baby is what brings him back to... What brings his humanity back.
Yeah.
Like, don't erase the emotions and then say, oh, the reason he defeated the Cybermen was because of emotion. Yeah. That's just a contradiction.
Well, it's his nature fighting against the machine, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work.
No.
Alternate titles, Sentimental and Mandroid, and it gets a thumbs down.
Yep.
Yeah, it gets a thumbs down from me.
Yeah.
Also, I mentioned earlier about the fact that it's been 200 years since the God Complex for the Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I generally like this idea that Stephen Moffat, like all of a sudden Stephen Moffat is like sort of directly saying the Doctor is having adventures without us.
Yeah.
Like in the Russell T Davies era, you'd be forgiven for thinking that the episodes follow on directly from each other. But in this episode, it's like, oh no, the Doctor's he's been traveling since we last saw him, and Amy and Rory like go home and then they go adventuring and then they come home again. But 200 years is way too fucking long. Are you seriously telling us that nothing of importance happened to Matt Smith in those 200 years?
It's too long with respect to the fact that it's the anti-penultimate episode.
Yeah.
So if they had spread 200 years over the course of this season, I can live with that.
Yeah.
But the fact is like, oh yeah, we've got to skip 200 years.
Yes.
Fuck it, let's do it.
Yeah.
And that's some nice audio drama filler. the 200 years there.
Because David Tennant, canonically speaking now, he was the Doctor for about 8 years, right?
Right.
And he was a completely different person when he quote-unquote died than when he was born.
Yeah.
Right? We talked about this when we talked about the specials, the radical shift in David Tennant's character. And that was over 8 years.
Yeah.
200 years of traveling, Matt Smith's basically the same by the end of it, you know?
Yeah.
It's too much. 200 years is just too much.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, The Wedding of River Song.
Oh, God, yeah, okay.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Is this the most I know we've got stuff to come as well, but is this the most nonsensical just thing? Well, it just literally feels like, oh, we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do that. Just fucking throwing shit at you.
Well, let me spout my rant and then you see what you think about it. Right, I understand the thinking, but there's no need to do these big series mysteries or arcs that require these convoluted finales. 'Cause I'm never excited, I'm never interested, I'm never engaged. So Lost was mysterious, right? But the thing with Lost was, even if you weren't getting answers, there was character and there was drama. This is just waiting for it to explain itself and then clear the palette for the next adventure.
Yeah.
The thing with Doctor Who is I'm always having to mentally recalibrate or reboot. Like, oh, they've resolved that convolution, or we can start again now. Like, as far as I'm concerned, the next chance I'm giving it is Capaldi. That's like the next proper reboot for me.
Okay.
Especially when there are episodes written for earlier series and pushed back. I think there's a couple this season that were written for earlier seasons.
Maybe the Curse of the Black Spots.
Yeah, another later.
Or that was supposed to air in a different place to it did, or there was something.
Oh, and the hotel one as well. That was written for an earlier series.
That was written for series 5.
Yeah. It just kind of shows you how muddled the storytelling is.
Yeah.
Because everything is everything, and every when is every when, and everywhere is everywhere. How can that possibly actually be realised?
Yes.
It just begs infinite questions, and not in like a tantalising way. No. It's just, well, that's too stupid to even be. You know what I mean?
The one nice thing is we get a Charles Dickens cameo, and it's played by the same guy who played him in The Unquiet Dead.
There's that.
It's like, oh, okay, that's a nice detail.
Simon Callow, right?
Yeah.
Yes. It's nice that you did that.
But as we were saying, boundaries are important.
Yeah.
It doesn't resemble anything coherent.
No.
It's lost all form, all shape. It's just nothing now.
Yeah.
It's just, it's crystallized a train going into a pyramid that's area 51 or whatever.
52.
Or 2. Right. Okay. That's meant to be a cool, striking image, but it's not. It's just arbitrary and irritating. He says at one point, quite emphatically, fixed points can't be rewritten. Didn't he do that himself? Hasn't he done that himself a couple of times?
Has he?
Well, like with Walter on Mars.
Yes, but she then kills herself, thus re-establishing the fixed point in time.
But it's not, is it? Because it's still different circumstances. It's still,
the circumstances are different, but her death was the motivating factor for her granddaughter.
So what are the rules then?
I think
Let's not get into it. Let's not get into it.
No. This is bad. Yeah. I don't want to be making excuses for it. But I would wager the counter argument is the events themselves can't change, but maybe details of them can.
Okay.
So the woman from the Waters of Mars still has to die, but it being suicide rather than murder, then that's
it's one of those things, though, isn't it? It's the butterfly effect thing. Like the reality is, if you change just one or two little circumstances, it changes everything. It just does. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It can't help but do that. There's a moment in this episode that we're meant to think is like emotionally awesome, but it's just pathetic. And that is when she's saying how much it would hurt her to kill the Doctor. And he's like, more than every living thing in the universe. And she goes, yes. And you're meant to go, ooh, the feeling.
Okay.
But that's just pathetic. It's just have some perspective.
Were you supposed to?
Yeah, of course. Okay. She goes, yes, and you're meant to think, yeah, I get that.
Right, okay.
But yes, it's more bad green screen when they go back to him being killed by her on the by the side of the lake. Yeah, that's some bad green screen.
Right, okay. So River was brainwashed by Madame Kavaria. Is that the name of the eye patch woman?
Kavarian.
Fuck it, I don't care. The eye patch lady.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Brainwashed River for her entire life. No, she brainwashed River as a child to want to kill the Doctor. Mm-hmm. Then River does. Then the Doctor brainwashes her. Then Madame Kavaria just lets River have a life for a while. Like, she gets her doctorate and everything. Then she and the Silence pluck River out of her own time stream and put her in the astronaut suit, which is in control of River.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So why the fuck did you need to brainwash River if you were going to put her in a suit that was going to do all the work?
This is Exhibit A. This typifies asking any question is just a redundancy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because this episode in particular is just so stupid.
Yeah.
Like, there's nowhere to even start. Do you know what I mean? It's like rearranging.
Yeah, I think when you said it was shapeless, I think that pretty much nailed it. I don't even know what to latch onto with this episode. It's just it's just noise. It's nonsense.
It's just noise. Yeah. It's whose perspective are we in when they find out that what the doctor whispered? I hate it when things do that. When the show is just deciding it doesn't want you to know. Not for very long, to be fair. But I've got a problem with that narrative technique. If you're in a certain character's perspective and they don't know the answer to something, and so you don't. I hate it when everyone but you knows, but the show is just deciding you're not going to know for now. Do you know what I mean? It's cheating. Like, whose perspective are we in when that happens?
Also, it doesn't help that when Matt Smith whispers what he whispers into River's ear.
Into era.
I mean, in this episode, it could have been possible that he whispered into an era, you know?
Yeah.
But when he whispers into her ear, his mouth is like on the side of her face that's facing the camera, so we can lip read what he's saying.
Right. Okay.
If you wanted, I don't actually know if the lip reading matches up, but you could just lip read him, you know?
Yeah.
Really, you should have him whispering on the other side of River. But then again, Amy and Rory would be able to see him, so I don't know what the fuck.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't think you need to. I think you just need to accept that it's bad, it's terrible writing, it's no.
This is a really bad. This is a really bad. Because, like I said, I haven't said this yet, ignore that. I know what's to come. Eddie knows what's to come.
Yeah.
So, this does get explained, I think. Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, where the eye patch woman came from and who the silents are and the broad reason they want to kill the doctor. Because they still haven't actually fucking explained why they want the doctor dead. They still didn't explain. Like, the TARDIS explosion isn't really explained this series. It was just one of the attempts. Like, that was an attempt to kill the doctor. This series is the second attempt to kill the doctor.
Right.
So Series 7 does sort of wrap it up, I guess,
if you say so.
But that's the thing. I had to look this up. I had to read through wiki pages to find out if there even was a connection, because I genuinely can't even retain this information.
I read the Wikipedia for this episode, the plot, to make sure to see if there was something happening.
Yeah,
it's the thing. We're talking about palate cleansers, and I kind of, even if it compromises, even if it leaves a massive hole, a massive question in the show. What's with Madame Kavarian and the silence? What's going on here? I'd sooner they just didn't even fucking bother and just carried on doing something different.
Yeah.
I don't want them to explain it. It's going to bug me if they feel a need to wrap all this stuff up. Just move on. It just, you fucked up here. Just start again and do... right. I appreciate the instinct to make the title of the show not just relevant, but like central. But it feels like a stretch.
Yep.
To say that's the definitive question of the series is Doctor Who. It's not the definitive question.
The oldest question in the universe, yeah.
Yeah. It's not the definitive question of the series. There is no definitive question to the series. Not even, and I genuinely mean that. It's not even the casual one, right? There's things like Lost, where the definitive question is basically what's going on. Then there are shows like The Sopranos or Breaking Bad or The Shield, which are more abstract, which are... What's the cost of this? What is the end result of living like this, of pursuing, this kind of life? Doctor Who doesn't have that. The only question now is how bad can this get? That is the definitive question of the series. How long can this possibly last? Because it's an endless renewal. At a certain point, because he's the 11th, isn't it? Was it 13 was the original regeneration you could have? Yeah. At a certain point, the central question could have been, what happens after that final regeneration, right?
Yes.
What is the end result? How does the Doctor truly die? Now that's been demolished. I know that is demolished as the show goes on.
Well, that's why I said in The Impossible Astronaut, remember that Matt Smith is regenerating.
Yes, yeah.
And remember that in Let's Kill Hitler, and I think The Girl Who Waited, he once again brings up regeneration as a thing he can do. Just keep all this, pickling in the back of your mind.
Dramas need a question to answer or a promise to keep to be a drama. They just do. This doesn't have anything. It doesn't, because where's it going? Where's Doctor Who going?
Could that be the ending of this episode where it's like Doctor Who is the oldest question in the universe? Could that be seen as the show trying to give itself something to answer?
Well, yeah, maybe going forward, but it felt, when it was said, it was flagging it up as like, this is what we've all been thinking, right? The central question we've all been asking is Doctor Who. I've never thought that, ever.
No.
Doctor Who is just the name of the show.
Yeah.
He's not even called, he's called the Doctor. That's what he's called. Yeah. Aren't we given to understand that they take the kind of designation that befits their character?
Yeah.
So he heals people. The Master dominated people.
Yes,
so
yeah.
It's kind of, it's poetic logic again, in a sense. It doesn't have a tangible reality to it.
No.
So I'm not thinking, Doctor Who, what's his surname? That does not even register.
Yeah.
So yeah, the show is going nowhere, unfortunately, and it's in series 12 now. What's the end point of this? Where's it going?
Hopefully, series 13.
Any good
Hopefully not
showrunner.
series 13, Eddie. Given what Chibnall's...
All my favourite showrunners, right, ever, all of them have demanded end dates for their shows. Because they know there's only so much mileage in a story, and you have to be able to see the horizon. You know, you have to see an end point. There isn't one. It's just going to keep going on and on and on forever.
Yeah.
And that depresses me a bit.
Well, it wouldn't depress me as much if it meant we would get a series 3 every year. But if we're getting like series 6 and worse, then
but even if we're getting a series 3 every year, I still need to know that it has an end point. You know?
Yeah, that's fine. But like, you know, it would still be, you know, oh, there's something broadly there's some like vague connective tissue, but for the most part, this is just, it's this adventure this week, and then it's this adventure this week.
Yeah, but they are serializing it more and more and introducing these arcs and these bigger questions about the series.
Yeah.
And I just think, to get big about it, life wouldn't be worth living if it went on forever, right?
No.
The thing that it injects meaning into life is the fact that it ends. And that applies to everything as well. There has to be the knowledge that it's going to end at some point.
Yes.
And this doesn't have that. And so it's without virtue. It's just, well, okay, I guess it's going to go on forever then. Because if you knew you were going to live forever, would you bother doing anything? Probably not.
No, probably not. Yeah.
There'd be no motivating
I'll do it
factor.
tomorrow.
I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
There'd be no motivating factor. And dramas need a motivating factor that is answering the central question of the show.
Okay.
And this doesn't have one.
So what you're saying is that series 6 is broadly a thumbs down.
I am saying that, yes.
Okay. All right.
My alternate titles for this episode were... I just got to the point where my alternate title was "Fuck You." That was one. But then I was going to leave it at that, but I thought, no, I will come up with one. Doculus. That's nice in the sense he's in the eye, as well as the fact that Karen Gillan is an Oculus, I believe.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right.
So
also we get Pond. Amelia Pond. We get a James Bond reference.
Do we get a James Bond reference?
Yeah, because she says Pond. Amelia Pond. And there's like James Bond-esque music playing in the background.
Really? I didn't pick up on that, because I was waiting for an episode where I could name it Pond Ames Pond. But
right.
I can't do that now, I guess.
This is the closest you're going to get.
This is the closest I'm going to get. Okay.
Yeah.
Fuck You is my alternate title for this episode. My response to it and its attitude towards me, I think.
Yes.
Okay.
So season 6, thumbs down.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do we have a quick little recap then?
Well, I imagine I can just take the audio from the last episode and just put it here.
Pretty much.
I don't think it's changed anything, is it?
Nah. The worst episode of this is that two-parter. The Rebel Flesh.
The Rebel Flesh and the Almost People.
Almost People.
Is that the worst that Doctor Who has done so far?
I think so for me, yeah.
Okay.
And the best is probably Night Terrors.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not. It's The Girl Who Waited.
Eddie, what's your favourite of the season?
Night Terrors.
Oh, I guess that makes it an objective opinion then. So on that wheel...
On that note, we'll wrap up, shall we?
Okay.
I rue the day that I have to start season 7, but it's coming. But yes, it's been a pleasure, lads.
Yep.
And we'll speak again soon.
Yes.
All right then.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.